Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to everyone watching live at home on FAB-Racing.co.uk, of course on their YouTube and their Facebook channels, and welcome to the southeast of England, Lydd in Kent. And you're joining myself, Gareth Hall, and Tristan Finocchiaro for round 2 of the season here. And it's going to be another absolutely sumptuous day of action. We saw round 1 yesterday, and it was absolutely brilliant from start to finish. So we're expecting more of the same. We've currently got the AC40 Pro class out on circuit, completing their warm-up laps. We'll be going green very, very shortly. Tristan, brilliant day yesterday, and for all the viewers watching out there, give us some highlights of what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, some absolutely fantastic racing in every class, to be honest, yesterday. But some of the highlights of yesterday were definitely Ethan Sparks yesterday, getting 3 wins from 3 in the AC40 Pros class, and we'll see what he can do in that a bit later on. Just now, Charlie Nesbitt as well. He was one to watch. He got a good few wins himself in the Extreme 200s and the pit bike class. Very fast all weekend was Charlie, so he's one to watch as well. Special mention also Austin Johnson in the AC40 rookies. He did really well yesterday, so there'll be another one to look out for. But many names, many fast riders, and a lot of close racing that we will be experiencing today.
Absolutely so. As the AC40 Pro class come around to line up on the grid as they start off their second round of the season here for the FAB-Racing 2020 Minibike British Championship, part of the Road to Moto GP, an official partner of the BSB. And myself, Gareth Hall, and Tristan Finocchiaro will be commentating on the entirety of this season. And yeah, it's going to be, as I say, a brilliant, brilliant day. And lining up on pole position this morning will be Joshua Williams. Alongside him will be 3-time race winner yesterday, Ethan Sparks. Archie O'Brien, the 91, in 3rd, with Archie Gibbs in 4th. On the 3rd row of the grid is the number 58, Marco Holt, with Wilson Dilks in 6th. Luke Fitchett lines up 7th, with Thorey Trevorrow in 8th. Harry Payne in 9th, with Bill Harris in 10th. Cason Sperry in 11th. Keaton Payne 12th. Noah Guillory 13th. Bailey Lawrence in 14th, and Callum Maxwell in 15th on the last position of the grid in on row 8. As the riders are now all ready to go. As you hear, everyone look at the lights, ready to shoot off, down to turn 1, and it's a good start there for Joshua Williams, who holds on to the lead. Ethan Sparks chasing down once again. Ethan's had a fantastic weekend so far, and he's looking at making it 4 from 4 in the AC40 Pro class.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ethan picking up 3 wins yesterday. You can only expect that he's going to be right on the pace today and looking for that 4th win. Josh Williams is, though, at the moment, who's leading this one, so Ethan's got a little bit of work cut out for him in the form of Josh Williams at the moment as they come into the complex just before the back straight for the first time of asking. We saw yesterday, Gareth, how strong Josh Williams is into the infield section on the brakes into the hairpins, so it might be difficult for Ethan Sparks to find a way through, but we saw how fast he was yesterday, and it's very likely that he could find a way through on Joshua Williams today. Yeah,
absolutely so, but Ethan will be all over him, looking at adding already to a very strong championship position. He currently stands on 75 points after the opening 3 races, but it is Joshua Williams that leads the field around after lap 1. Those 2 have started to make a little bit of a breakaway over the rest of the pack, so it's been a good start from the top 2 that led off of the front row of the grid. Behind, we've got the likes of Archie O'Brien, Archie Gibbs, and Marco Holt going with them as well. So yeah, look out for Archie O'Brien. He had a couple of good results yesterday as well, so strong start from him, currently 3rd in the championship.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Archie O'Brien as well, flying today. We saw his pace yesterday as well, so it will be interesting to see if he can catch these guys. But Ethan Sparks now making a move for the lead, so that's Ethan Sparks overtaking Josh Williams at that hairpin that we said Josh was so strong at. But it looks like Josh is clawing it back. He claws it back just on the acceleration there. So brilliant stuff from both of these guys as they head into the final corner for the second time of asking. But is Josh Williams still just about leading it from Ethan Sparks. Ethan Sparks now taking the lead back from him, so a brilliant swapping positions between these guys.
Yeah, absolutely so. Great start for the pair of them, and they have got quite a healthy lead over the rest of the field And I'm sure after the two transitioning positions over the infield section last time round, that's not the last we're going to see of him. We know that Ethan is desperate to add to the 3 wins that he picked up on Saturdays. We've got a yellow flag out on the back end of the circuit, possibly for a driver that stopped on the sides, but it is still Ethan Sparks in the lead of this one. Joshua Williams closing down as the pair go into the infield hairpin section.
Rise up and go. Okay, so that's good to see. But at the moment, it is all about Ethan Sparks and Joshua Williams at the front. Can Archie O'Brien do anything about these guys and catch up? Doesn't seem likely at the moment, but in a brilliant battle for third place at the moment between him and Archie Gibbs.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's Archie O'Brien currently in third place with Archie Gibbs in fourth. Thorley Trevorlow doing very nicely as well, up into fifth position as well. So we've currently got the two Archies in third and fourth, and battling out between themselves for the P3, whilst we still have Ethan and Josh still out on track, still trailing each other, and with the laps counting down, it's all going to be about who can make that last move. And of course, we've seen some very, very late changes for position in the first round of the season yesterday, and one of those was from Ethan. So let's watch out and see if that happens again. Josh is going to have to stay with him over the next laps or so if he's going to have any chance of getting that first race win of the weekend.
Yeah, Josh is doing really well to stay on Ethan at the moment, because we saw how fast Ethan was yesterday. He was just able to break away in every race. So for Josh to be able to go with him at the moment is good. Josh being able to just sit behind and watch will also be a good sign for the end of the race. It will mean that he can give him a bit of a study and then hopefully find a way towards the end of this race. But it's going to be tough competition against Ethan Sparks.
Yep, absolutely. So Archie O'Brien still in third place. Another podium currently. We'll see if that changes, of course, but once again we'll be adding to a pretty healthy total for him so far to open this season calendar, which has been much delayed. Everyone looking forward to getting back to racing, and but at the moment it's a pretty healthy getaway for Ethan Sparks and for Josh Williams. They lead at the front by a good 2.5 seconds at the moment. So a great getaway for the opening two, and those the pair of them kind of starting where they left off yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so 3 wins for Ethan and 3 second places, I believe, also for Josh. So I'm sure Josh is going to be wanting to reverse that today. But obviously, very early in the season, 20 points on the board isn't a bad thing at all. So at the moment it is still Ethan Sparks leading from Joshua Williams, as Archie O'Brien, Archie Gibbs in 4th place, and Thorley Trevorrow in 5th. Harry Payne currently in 6th, followed by Bill Harris, Casey Sperry, Noah Guillory and Keaton Payne rounding out your top 10. Bailey Lawrence, Callum Maxwell, Luke Fitchett, Marco Holt and Wilson Dilks round out your top 15.
But it's Archie O'Brien doing a good job out there at the moment, trying to hold on to that 3rd place that he's currently commanding, and you can see being tailed pretty closely by Archie Gibbs and Thorley Trevorrow, and Thorley doing a much better job today, staying in contention for a podium place, and you can see the 3 are going to come across the line all within a 10th of a second of each other, so very, very close indeed, and this is going to go right down to the wire for the final place on the podium. So Archie O'Brien doing a fantastic job at the moment, really, really working on that defensive driving.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Archie to be able to hold on to that position. You've got to think that the other Archie behind him is going to be just studying him at the moment. It does look like he's trying to find a way through at the moment, but Archie Gibbs has had a good look at Archie O'Brien and will be just trying to figure out where he can get past Archie O'Brien ahead of him.
Yep, absolutely. So P9 and P10 battling. That's Noah Guillory and Keaton Payne. The number 41, Noah Guillory, and the 112, Keaton Payne, battling over 9 and 10 on track. So not just the top 5 positions all battling over position. It's happening all through the grid, and that's what you're going to get in the AC40 Pro Class. And we saw 3 magnificent races yesterday for these guys, and even though they've all had an extended break, it was back to business straight away, and one of those drivers that is on it is Ethan Sparks, and he's still being followed by Josh Williams. So Ethan, even with that extended break, straight back on it and doing a fantastic job once again, adding to that already strong total.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a long anticipated wait for these guys probably is definitely giving them some eager anticipation for the season. But a lot of them, as soon as they could, got training, got on tracks, and made sure they were ready for this season. And two riders that have done a very good job at the front are your two riders at the front, Ethan Sparks and Joshua Williams. You can just see Josh Williams can take a really tight line there and just finds his way up underneath the leader of Ethan Sparks. So that is now Josh Williams into the lead as we come across the line for the final as we start the final lap and head into the first complex for the last time.
Yeah, great move there from Josh Williams up into the lead right at the opportune moment, and it's really, really good there for Josh. Very late move indeed to get up and really giving Ethan Sparks all to do in the last lap to maintain his perfect start to the season. But it is Josh Williams looking at picking up his first victory of the season here in the AC40 Pro class, and he's going to have a job to keep Ethan's behind, but it's going to be close coming down the back in towards the infield section with the hairpins. Does Ethan look for the inside? He does, but he's going to get cut back. They're going to go side by side into the second hairpin. Who's going to get it out? You need to get the inside line. It is Joshua Williams that's going to get a good run, and he's going to go into the final two corners. Is Joshua Williams able to use that second overtake? But Ethan's going to go down the inside. They're going to go side by side across the line, but it's Josh Williams that takes the win to start off the day. Fantastic result for him. Ethan Sparks in second. Behind, we're going to have three coming across the line in a flash. It's going to be so close between all three of them. Archie O'Brien, Archie Gibbs and Thorley Trevorrow coming across the line within 1.5 tenths of each other, but it is Archie O'Brien on the line picking up another podium. A mega way to start off the day.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant for Josh Williams. I know he was looking for a win today, and he's already got it. It's two more to go, he'll have another two goes at it. But it was good to see, especially with Ethan Sparks taking 3 wins yesterday, and now we have a new winner in Joshua Williams today. Archie O'Brien doing well to pick up another podium there in third place ahead of the other Archie Gibbs, and Harry Payne rounding out his top 5. So yeah, very interesting race, that one.
Yeah, absolutely so. And it was brilliant in the last part of the lap into the infield hairpin section. You saw Ethan thought he's got to go for it, and you can see it just didn't quite come off slightly deep, and that allowed Josh back up the inside and to eventually take that race win.
Joshua Williams it was then that took that win ahead of Ethan Sparks, Archie O'Brien in third place ahead of Archie Gibbs, Harry Payne, Bill Harris and Thorley Trevorrow in 7th. 8th place went to Casey Sperry, 9th Noah Guillory, and rounding out your top 10 was the number 112 of Keaton Payne.
Yeah, good race there for Harry Payne in P5 after starting on 9th on the grid. So yeah, good race there to start off the day for Harry, and I'm sure a top 5 for him will be a pretty pleasing way to start the day. Special marks goes out to Archie Gibbs, was under pressure for the entirety of that one. So and Archie O'Brien, under pressure for the entirety of that one from Archie Gibbs and from Thorley Trevorrow, but it seems Thorley fell down the order towards the end, but Archie O'Brien doing another great job, another podium for him.
Yeah, some brilliant defensive riding there that really took that podium for him. So some brilliant stuff from him. He'll be happy with that. Some points on the board for the championship, and long season to go. Hopefully he'll be looking to improve on that and get a win later in the season.
Absolutely. So next up will be the AC40 rookie class, and that's another one. These guys, of course, is the entry level for everyone getting involved in FAB. They can be from 6 years old. These are air-cooled 40cc engines. Will do about 45 miles an hour, which if for the uninitiated, if you put a 6-year-old on anything that went 45 miles an hour, I'm sure most people would grit their teeth, but these riders are pretty adept at it, and they will go out there and absolutely launch it into the very fast sweeping corners here in Lydd kart circuit down in Kent. And we saw some brilliant racing from the rookie class yesterday for round 1, and riders like Finley Polehill, Byron Johnson, and a rider that did well, unfortunately had a little bit of an incident later in the day, was Freddie Bridewell.
Yeah, we saw some great stuff from all of these riders yesterday. To be honest, a very close championship at the top at the moment, because we had quite a different podium in each race, which was good to see. It was exciting for us, and all of these guys learning a lot, at this point.
Absolutely so, and of course special mention goes out to Austin Johnson, who had a brilliant second and third races after suffering a really disappointing race one of the day. Was able to come back and pick up some really strong results later on, and in fact race two took the victory by almost 12 seconds. So yeah, that shows just how strong he was, and yeah, I'm sure Austin will be looking at adding to that win column that he picked up on Saturday. Finley Polehill picked up the victory in race one after that bike issue for Austin Johnson, and after a slight mistake from Finley Polehill actually in race two, where he went down, got back on the bike straight into the race, and in fact made his way back up to fifth. So Finley Polehill, good mental strength from him to not let the frustration get to him, and straight back out onto the field and making his way back through after making a mistake, which for these younger drivers is a big deal, because it's all about learning to make mistakes and equally overcome them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these guys are learning all the time. This is, for them, it's either their first or one of their first races ever. So it's at the moment for them, it's just all about learning, all about getting the laps under their belt, and proving that they have what it takes to move up to the AC40 Pro class that we just saw just then.
Yep, absolutely. So it looks as though we've got everyone looking to the lights, and we've got the two warm-up laps for the AC40 rookie class, and it will be Finley Polehill on the pole for this one, alongside Austin Johnson in second, Harrison Day in third, with Byron Johnson in fourth, Freddie Bridewell back in fifth place with Oliver Hall alongside Lewis Hull in seventh, and Travis Shaw, the number 4, in eighth, Ollie O'Gorman in ninth, and we'll hear that name come up as the day goes on, with older brother Casey on circuit, Chloe Sewell in 10th, and Zach Penagar in row 6 in 11th place.
Shout out to Austin yesterday, who took 2 wins in this class, and in a good way in the championship at the moment. Your championship leader is also your poleman, Finley Polehill, so he'll be looking to get a good result as well this weekend. Austin did have a DNF in race 1 yesterday after a bit of a technical issue, and they also saw a bit of a coming together between him and Finley Polehill. So expect some more exciting racing. Austin Johnson is the man to beat in this one, but I'm sure your championship leader Finley Polehill will have something to say about it.
Yep, Finley Polehill in the fluoro orange bike, leading the field around on the second and final warm-up lap, with Austin Johnson not far behind. And Austin's had some good starts over the last day, and we'll see if Finley can get a good launch off the line and send it down into the very fast right chicane to open up the lap here at Lydd. And all these riders very early on are very well, after 3 races so far, I'm sure they're well ready, well versed in how to get the best setup off the line. And yep, it's going to be Finley Polehill leading us away.
A name to look out for as well, we did mention it earlier on, Freddie Bridewell, nephew of Tommy Bridewell, so a familiar name on this grid. Also being mentored, obviously, by his nephew, so hopefully he can give him some tips that will help him. He did manage to get a podium yesterday, which was good to see, so another name to look out for on this grid. Yep,
and he will be on the third row of the grid in 5th as all the riders come around to the start line, just waiting for a few to filter through the final sector of the circuit. And it will be Finley looking alongside to Austin Johnson, knowing that Austin very strong in the afternoon session yesterday, picking up a couple of race wins. So a lot of work for Finley to do if he's to hold on to this one. And Austin Johnson equally will be looking at closing in on Finley Polehill, who's currently leading the championship after Austin's unfortunate loss out of the timing sheet in race 1. But it's going to be, I'm sure, very strong start to round 2 of the day for the AC40 rookie class here, the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championships. As you can see, riders now all on the grid, getting ready to open up their first race of round 2 of the weekend, and all looking to the lights, getting ready to go. getting ready to send it down to turn 1. It's Finley Polehill versus Austin Johnson off the line. Who gets it? It is Finley Polehill. Gets a good start. Austin Johnson still in second place. Great start there from Finley. You can see he's already got himself a couple of bike lengths between himself and Austin Johnson.
Yeah, brilliant start there for Finley Polehill. From pole position, maintains that lead. So yeah, brilliant stuff from him. Looks like we have an off there in turn 5. Rider up and okay, and looks like he's going to try and get that bike restarted and rejoin the race, but it's all about Finley Polehill at the front at the moment, who's just edged out a little bit of a lead over Johnson just behind him. Yep,
of course, Finley Polehill picking up race 1 and doing it in style, in fact, with an over a 12-second win margin. So yeah, Finley can get on it if he wants to, and you can see he's doing very nicely indeed already over this opening lap, who's got almost a second's lead over the chasing pack. So great start from Finley Polehill as he looks to pick up a second win of the weekend here at Lydd.
Yeah, very different to scenes to what we were seeing yesterday. It looked as if Austin Johnson was the one with the pace yesterday that no one could catch. But at the moment, it's Finley Polehill who's pulling away from Austin. So be interesting to see if Austin can close that gap back in and we can have a battle for the lead. But at the moment, no one can catch Finley Polehill.
No, absolutely not. Finley has had a rocket of a start, and we'll see if he can hold on to this gap that he's slowly starting to build. And you can see behind Austin Johnson coming under threat from Harrison Day and Byron Johnson as well. So yeah, the three of them all battling over second in the class, whilst Freddie Bridewell tries to get involved in this and make it a 4-way fight for second. But this is allowing Finley Polehill to stretch that lead out at the front. So it's been a perfect start for Finley, a perfect start to the day as he looks for picking up a second victory in the season calendar so far. You can see Austin Johnson getting a slow exit out of the second hairpin, but just about managing to get on the power and getting that bike straightened up.
Yeah, these riders battling for second need to be really careful about how much they're scrapping, because it will just let Finley Polehill get away. He is putting a nice consistent pace down, so if these guys start playing around with each other too much, it will let Finley Polehill get away even more.
Yeah, and this is something that we were talking about during round 1 yesterday, of these riders learning to work with each other to close in on that breakaway leader. And of course you can see that intense battle for second, and of course they're all racers, they all want to pick up the best results, but when you've got someone breaking away and starting to make a pretty healthy gap, it's all about using each other to not really fight, getting and moving back up the field and closing in on Finley Polehill, who's now stretching that lead out to well over 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Already coming up to a little bit of lapped traffic are these guys. I think perhaps just a little bit of a problem at the beginning of the race for that rider. Perhaps it was the rider that went down earlier on. But all nice and swiftly done for these guys. Of course, learning all the time, learning how to deal with back markers, and learning, of course, like we were just talking about, to work with each other to try and catch a rider breaking away like Finley Polehill. It does look like they've closed him down a little bit now. That gap's come down considerably from almost 2.5 seconds to 0.8 of a second now. So it looks like we're going to have a battle for the lead here at Lydd.
Yep, 5 laps left to go in this one, so plenty of time for positions to change. And Finley Polehill having a weaker end to that last lap and has been reeled in by the chasing pack of now Byron Johnson in second. Austin Johnson now back to third. So Byron Johnson moving up past Harrison Day and Austin Johnson in the last lap and a half. So it's been a strong end to the last 2 laps for Byron, and he's closing in on Finley as they come into the infield hairpin section, and the 3 riders all together, and it's going to be a close one over the last couple of laps. You can see Byron Johnson really starting to put the pressure on Finley now. So Finley, after that healthy lead to start with, is now going to ultra defensive mode, and what that will do is just slow you up, and you can see the position has changed, and coming across the line it looks as though Byron Johnson has now jumped up into the lead of this one. So it's been a great move from him in 4th position just 2.5 laps ago, now finds himself in the lead.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff from Byron. We saw how fast he was yesterday. He did pick up a podium yesterday, so yes, for him to be on the pace is a great sign. He's quite a bit quicker than Finley Polehill on that last lap with a 102.3. Austin Johnson also looking very menacing. So Finley might fall into the clutches of Austin as well on this lap. So Finley now needs to sort of regroup, study Byron a little bit and find a way past and make sure he's not dropped by these guys.
Obviously, you're well versed in bike riding. It's something that you do a lot. But if you're in position, you see there is a change for second position. Austin Johnson getting past Finley Polehill. So Finley now back to third. So Finley started this race with a big lead, well over 2.5 seconds. He's now been reeled in and has dropped down to third. So what does that do to a driver mentally? Is it all about recovering and getting back on it? Because of course he's now seeing both Byron and Austin Johnson starting to move away. You can already see the gap is stretching out. So it's the two Johnsons at the front. So where does Finley need to improve to close back in and challenge for that lead?
It's always a little bit demoralising when you've set out a good consistent pace and some riders have managed to catch you up and get their way past. But he needs to sort of just stay focused, make sure he's hitting his markers, doing what he needs to be doing, and keeping with these guys. These guys are clearly they've got a good pace and they're setting a really good consistent rhythm. So Finley will do well to just try and upset their rhythm a little bit, and get amongst them.
As Finley has closed in a little bit as Austin Johnson looks to the inside into the infield hairpin section. In fact, hits the curb and that almost sends him off the bike and costs him a little bit of time there, and that's going to allow Finley a little bit of an impetus to close in. But Austin just taking the apex a little bit too tight, getting on these very aggressive curbs here at Lydd, and in fact he's straight back on it and he's alongside going into turn one. Who's going to get it into the corner? It is still Byron Johnson that holds on to this one, but Austin, even after that slight wobble, straight back on the power, straight back into it, and even challenging for the lead 2 corners later. Absolutely,
and Finley as well responding on that lap, matching the pace of these guys, in fact slightly quicker than both of them on that last lap. So brilliant stuff from Finley to be able to regroup, like we were just saying, regroup and stick with these guys. But at the moment it's the two Johnsons battling it out at the front, and Finley is just watching. I think he's just biding his time a little bit and waiting to find a way past here at Lydd for round 2 of the FAB-Racing AC40 Rookies Championship.
A great little battle in 6th and 7th at the moment between Oliver Hall and Lewis Hull, battling and swapping places over that top 6th place, and it is currently Oliver Hall that's managed to make his way up into 6th. Those two split by less than a tenth of a second across the line, as Lewis Hull will be looking at picking up the position, but I believe that's Austin Johnson that's just gone down the inside and up into the lead of this one as we go into the final lap. So great lap there from Austin to close back in and take the line, and got the perfect launch out the final corner and takes the lead onto the last lap.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff there from Austin. He waited till the last lap, made a move, and now he's going to make sure he's covering all his lines and making sure there's no way through for Byron. Finley as well there in 3rd place is going to be looking to have a good at these guys, but of course a little bit of a gap at the moment that he needs to close in. These guys we saw very strong on the infield section, so Finley's going to do well to try and have a good look at them there. But I think all riders just a little bit too much, bit too much of a gap between each of these riders at the moment. So as they come through the infield section, it still is Austin Johnson that's leading this one, and it looks like he's got his lines covered beautifully and no way through at the moment for any of the riders behind him. And that is Austin Johnson that takes the win here for race 1 of round 2 here at Lydd, the FAB-Racing Minibike Championships in Lydd. Race 1 for the AC40 rookies goes to Austin Johnson, ahead of Byron Johnson and Finley Polehill, who led at the beginning of the race, finishing in 3rd on the number 199. Harrison Day did pick up 4th place, and Freddie Bridewell, that familiar name, in 5th.
Yeah, fantastic race there from both Austin and Byron Johnson, and I'm sure Finley Polehill, another podium, so he's got to be happy with that, as across the line does come Oliver Hall and Travis Shaw, split by a very, very small amount there. So Oliver Hall falling back a little bit, being caught up by Travis Shaw. We've still got a couple of riders to finish. They're still out on circuit as Chloe Sewell comes across the line in 9th, and she picks up a top 10 place. Zach Panagar is the last one to come across the line. And but it's once again, it's the 3rd race win of the weekend here for Austin Johnson. He wins with a 3/10 margin over Byron Johnson in 2nd. Finley Polehill in 3rd, the 199 rider. Harrison Day in 4th, with Freddie Bridewell in 5th place. Lewis Hull in 5th, with Oliver Hall in Lewis Howard in 6th, Oliver Hall in 7th, Travis Shaw in 8th, Chloe Saul in 9th, and Zach Penagar rounding out the top 10.
At the moment, the skies do seem a little bit cloudy here in Lydd. Dry conditions at the moment, but it looks like we may be getting some reports of rain coming in later in the day. We are having some feedback that it is spitting at parts around the circuit at the moment, so perhaps we can expect some rain for some of the races that are yet to come up. Next up will be the senior mini motos, so it'll be interesting to see if the rain holds off for these guys. None of these guys this weekend have had any wet track time, so it'll be all new for everyone. They'll be finding where the grip is if there is any rain, but at the moment we're just still seeing dry conditions on track, Gareth.
So what's that like for a driver, Tristan, when you're going out on a dry track and you can feel in the air the weather is coming, it might be turning, and they don't quite know what the conditions are being like? Of course, yesterday's weather was absolutely scorching sunshine. It's a little bit more overcast. We're expecting possibly some rain to come over in the next hour or so. What's the mindset? Because of course you have no idea what to expect as the race goes on.
Yeah, well, everyone's in the same boat, and each rider needs to remember that. Their main thing obviously is going to be finding where the grip is, and finding how much grip there is out there on circuit. At the moment, these guys, there'll be plenty of grip in these tyres. They don't run full slicks on these little bikes. They'll be running cut slicks, so they'll easily find grip at the moment. There's no problem conditions wise at the moment. But if they do see some rain a bit later in the race, it will be something they'll have to gauge and make sure they can keep the heat in those tyres.
Yeah, absolutely so. And one rider just to highlight that had a good round one yesterday is Matt Birkin. And we saw that perhaps in the opening stages of the race that he was a little bit off the pace, and in the second half of the race he was just coming alive. He was just really taking the fight to the likes of Will Howarth and Bernie Hook for the lead. So yeah, Matt, I think you've got to think if you're him, it's if he can pick up the pace in the early stages compared to the second half, then he's got to be hoping for a decent round two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say he was weak in the first half of the race, but obviously the two guys in front of him were very strong. Will Howarth gets on the pace straight away, and you can just put consistent laps down and make a break. Matt Birkin, though, it has to be said, comes completely into his own at the end of the race, and really shows what he can do towards the end of the race. So if he can do what he can do at the end, at the beginning, he can be a real threat. But the one to catch is definitely Will Howarth. That consistent pace at the front is definitely something these guys are going to have to look out for. Yep. As they get underway for the warm-up lap, Bernie Hook did get a win yesterday, so Will Howarth not taking a clean sweep yesterday. I'm sure he'll be looking to do it today, but for the sake of exciting racing, we'd like to see Matt Birkin and Bernie Hook give him a good challenge today. Yeah,
absolutely, and don't expect this one to be split apart as well, like we've seen in multiple classes so far this weekend. Race 2 yesterday saw the first and second places, with Bernie Hook taking the victory ahead of Matt Birkin, less than a tenth of a second across the line. So it will go down to the wire for this one, and expect to see the same thing with both Will Howarth, Bernie Hook, and both the Birkins, Matt and Josh, most likely putting the pressure on at the front. A couple of good results of Adam Ambrose yesterday in 5th place, so Adam looking at moving forward in this one, I'm sure, but definitely the top 4 will be looking at improving their current championship standings. Will Howarth currently leads on 66 points ahead of Bernie Hook on 61. Matt Birkin on 56, with Josh Birkin a little bit further back on 39. So already we can see a strong top 3 of Will Howarth, Bernie Hook and Matt Birkin, as they had a really good Saturday.
Yeah, these guys, they're definitely the definitive top 3. They've definitely got a little bit more pace than the rest of the field. Josh Birkin did seem like he could hang on to these guys for a little bit, but yeah, those are your main top 3 men, and Will Howarth being the main man that these guys need to look out for. He'll be looking for a clean sweep today. Couldn't do it yesterday, but he does still have the championship lead, and that's the main thing so early in the championship, as they come round to almost finish their second warm-up lap.
Absolutely, and it will be Will Howarth on pole, with Bernie Hook alongside Matt Birkin in 3rd, Josh Birkin in 4th, Adam Ambrose 5th, with Andy Whedon in 6th, Nick Bennett in 7th, with Craig Ashall 8th, George Rennick in 9th with Aston Dean in 10th. Ricky Goosey in 11th with Neil Skinner in 12th. Jess Lucas in 13th with Paul Bayliss 14th. And Marco Pandolfo in 15th with Holly Harris joining the grid in 16th.
We're now having some reports of that they're starting to rain on track, Gareth, so perhaps something that these guys are going to have to keep an eye on. I don't think at the moment it's severe enough for a red flag, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that one. I think at the moment the race is set to go ahead. So fairly light rain at the moment, so nothing too bad for these guys as some of them look to the skies, but now they need to be focusing on the flag, on the lights, ready for the first lap of this race, and they're away. So it's Will Howarth that gets a brilliant start as always, ahead of Matt Birkin in third. Josh Birkin going wide through the first corner, Bernie Hook right on his tail, and the familiar names of Matt Birkin in third place.
I think that was Matt Birkin that actually got a little bit wide on the entry at turn 2, and we've got the 96 down, and that is Will Howarth. Will Howarth down. So yeah, the pole sitter early down, so that promotes Bernie Hook up into the lead of this one.
Yeah, Bernie Hook leading by default. Perhaps some grip issues there from Will Howarth. It doesn't seem like it's spitting too heavily at the moment, but these guys finding some good lead angle. You can see them coming through the inner section at the moment. Looks like Bernie Hook struggling a little bit for pace at the moment. Birkin seems to just be edging out that lead at the front. So it is Birkin then that leads on this first lap. That's Josh Birkin leading into the first corner ahead of Bernie Hook, and Matt Birkin in third place at the moment. Matt Birkin now taking second place away from Bernie Hook. Perhaps Bernie Hook being a little bit tentative of the track conditions at the moment. But these guys, yeah, that's your race leader out of the race, Gareth.
Yeah, absolutely. Drama to start this one for Will Howarth. Very, very early on retirement. It has promoted Josh Birkin up into lead. Bernie Hook in second. Matt Birkin. And we've got 3 riders down, everyone up and okay. Obviously the conditions catching out some of these drivers with a little bit of a slightly greasier track down the back end, where we've got the rain starting to sweep across the circuit.
Yeah, you can just see there Bernie Hook going through that final section, how he's just a little bit tentative to lean the bike. He's trying to keep, he's getting his weight off the side of the bike, but keeping the bike fairly upright, trying to find where the grip is at the moment. So yeah, Bernie Hook definitely riding a little bit tentatively at the moment, trying to find where the grip is at the moment, and there's also now a crash for number 22 Paul Bayliss at the moment, but yeah, it's now at the front Bernie Hook who's taken the lead. Is that Josh Birkin now down to 7th place, so some issue for him on that lap. So Bernie Hook then is that leads. You could see him riding tentatively, trying to find the grip. Adam Ambrose is, though, at the moment, who's on the pace, almost a second quicker than Bernie Hook on that last lap. So that's going to be someone we're going to have to look out for at the moment. And that's quite a few riders down now as well at the hairpin.
That's both Birkins that have managed to go down at the hairpin, so it must be really tricky down the back end of the circuit. The track obviously really starting to hamper these riders. Yeah, we've got a lot of riders out there struggling in these conditions. We can see the rain on the rooftops outside the commentary box, and it is starting to come down and starting to affect these riders. You can see everyone's starting to bunch up as well, because everyone really tentative on the throttle, but out front it is still Bernie Hook that leads this one, and he's got a pretty decent lead, but we can even see just how much more careful he is on the exit turn 2.
Yeah, but you can see how much he's just trying to get his weight off the side of the bike and keep the bike fairly upright, not too much lean angle. It's important for these guys though to keep the heat in these tyres in these conditions. If they're too careful, the heat will drop and they'll be in even more trouble at the moment. A great battle brewing at the moment then for second, third and fourth. That's Marco Pandolfo, who's come right from the back of the grid up into second place. So Marco really on the pace at the moment. Good bit slower than Bernie Hook at the moment. So Bernie Hook is really finding the grip out there and doing a good job to gauge the conditions at the moment. But this battle for second, third and fourth really hotting up at the moment, as a little bit of contact through the infield section now as Marco Pandolfo keeps that second place ahead of the two Birkins.
We were 3 wide into the first hairpin in towards the infield section there, and so these riders are really on it, and you can see still 2 wide as they come into the final 2 corners. So it's incredibly hard out there. You can see everyone struggling in different corners. Everyone's got slightly different pace, but Marco Pandolfo currently in second. He is 4.5 seconds behind leader Bernie Hook, but what an absolutely mega race from him to come up from 15th on the grid up into second. He's holding off Josh and Matt Birkin. Matt Birkin has seemed to have been in every position on the circuit so far in this race. He's been down, he's been up, he's been pushed down after a slow start, but he's back up in 4th position, looking at picking up a podium, but he's got to get past Josh Birkin for 3rd and Marco Pandolfo just ahead.
It looks like now, though, it's just the 2 Birkins battling for that second position. I think we've lost. No, and that's a crash there for Marco Pandolfo. So that's one of the Birkins down, and that's Marco Pandolfo with a big crash onto the back straight there. But he's back up and running and back into, it looks like 3rd place there. So he's still holding on to a podium position despite the crash. A bit of a nasty one there for Marco Pandolfo, but straight back on the bike and determined to finish this race, as looks like a lot of these riders not so determined to finish this race.
No, yeah.
So that's Josh Birkin, who's still on track in second place. That's the number 4, and Paul Durflo still 3rd. Ricky Goosey has taken 3rd. Adam Ambrose and Michael Pandolfo has dropped down to 5th place after that crash. So it'll be interesting to see if that's knocked his confidence a little bit, or if he can climb back up into a podium position.
As the number 0 Bernie Hook is currently with a 2.5 second lead, but it is being closed in by Josh Birkin. So Bernie in this late stage with about 3.5 laps left to go. As you can see, 2 riders on the outside, so yellow flags, no overtaking there. Unfortunately, it looks as though everyone's very, very tentative, and it seems that sort of back end coming towards the middle sector of the circuit is starting to get very greasy, very tricky indeed. Bernie Hook very, very slowly being reeled in by Josh Birkin. Ricky Goosey now up into 3rd place. He started in 11th, so great race so far for Ricky. Adam Ambrose is in 4th. Marco Pandolfo, after that fall, has managed to recover. He's in 5th. Craig Ashall in 6th. Holly Harris, good first race for Holly. She's in 7th place after starting 16th. Andy Whedon, the number 7, in 8th, with Matt Birkin now unfortunately down and out of the race.
Yeah, I think he may have rejoined there, but we just have to need to confirm that for you. But yeah, really difficult situation for Bernie Hook at the moment, because he's having to gauge the conditions at the front. He's got no one to follow, no one to sort of see what they're doing. So for Bernie Hook to be out front, you can see he's got his visor open at the moment, just trying to see where the grip is at the moment. But yeah, he's doing a great job out front. He's managed to extend his lead actually on that last lap. It did look like Birkin was closing in at one point, so perhaps a mistake for Birkin on that last lap. But yeah, Bernie Hook doing a brilliant job out the front to gauge these conditions. Yeah, you can just see there, yeah, the gap's definitely a lot bigger there between Bernie Hook and Josh Birkin. Battle for 3rd. Marco Pandolfo has made his way up into 3rd place then. Holly Harris now up into 4th. As you were saying, Holly has, and that's Pandolfo down again from the same corner. Pandolfo's crashed out again. It looks like he's not willing to rejoin again. So last lap now for these guys as Bernie Hook makes his way through the first complex. Josh Birkin looks like he's content with that 2nd place. He's sort of signalling to his pit crew at the side there. So yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff from these guys.
Yeah, great race so far for Bernie Hook. After losing a little bit of time a couple of laps ago, he's now extended that lead out to 6.8 seconds over Josh Birkin. As you say, possibly just settling for 2nd place. Craig Ashall has now moved up into 3rd. Adam Ambrose in 4th, but it is still going on. Of course, with these conditions, all could happen on the last lap. We never know. We've seen riders go down at almost every single corner. Oh, and down goes. Who's that? Is that?
That's Bernie Hook.
It's Bernie Hook.
That's your race leader down.
Yeah, so
Josh
Bernie
Birkin He's managed to get back on and he's still leading this race, but that's given Josh Birkin a chance to close in. I think he's just got enough of a lead now. He's taking it very tentative in the last few corners. I think he just wants to make sure he stays on and takes this race win. But if he takes it too tentative, he could let through Josh Birkin through this final corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Bernie Hook under pressure coming into the last 2 corners. Can he hold on to it? He's had a tricky last lap. They're going to go so close as we come into the last lap.
And he's down! Josh Birkin's down at the last corner. So that's Bernie Hook that takes the win. Josh Birkin crashed at the final corner, manages to rejoin and takes 2nd place.
Oh, fantastic there. Last lap drama. You see Bernie Hook went down at turn 12 on the last lap. Josh Birkin going down on the final corner, trying to push. And we've got riders coming up to the line. We'll find out who picks up 3rd. It's Andy Whedon on the line, picking up 3rd place. And Ricky Goosey coming across the line in 4th. So these riders really struggling with the conditions. We've seen them making their way through the field. And Craig Ashworth in 5th. Holly Harris moving up from 16th on the grid into 6th. She was running a little bit further up. In fact, she must have had a slight wobble further, a couple of laps ago. She was running in 3rd for 1 lap. So Holly down to 6th now, but great race from her, moving up 10 places. Across the line comes Jess Lucas, I believe that is, in 8th position. And behind we've got everyone else struggling on a very much evolving track. And you can see, Tristan, as that race went on, just every single corner you can see riders starting to struggle with very tricky conditions, especially the turn 12.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every rider had a good go at crashing in that race. I don't think there was many riders that finished the race that didn't have at least one crash. But yeah, your top 10 then. Bernie Hook it was that took the win despite that crash on the last lap. Josh Birkin gave it everything he could to try and take the win, but did take 2nd place after a crash at the last corner. 3rd place went to the number 7 of Andy Whedon. 4th, Ricky Goosey. 5th place was Craig Ashall. Holly Harris, her first race in the senior minimoto class, in 6th place. Adam Ambrose, it was in 7th from Jess Lucas, Marco Pandolfo and Paul Bayliss, rounding out your top 10.
Yep. But fantastic win there for Bernie Hook, his 2nd of the season. And with Will Howarth out of the race on lap 1, it's a fantastic result for Bernie in his championship push. So what a result for him. And so you've got to look at the race that we've just had, the weather that came in and how it affected the riders. And when you have interchangeable conditions like that, of course, everyone was lining up on the grid. They could see the start and they could see the rain coming in as the race went on. And so many riders struggling in multiple corners. So the track obviously getting greasier, obviously getting much trickier to race on. But you can see Bernie Hook, even on that last lap, going down, managed to just hold on to it.
Yeah, you could see how difficult it was for these guys. I mean, luckily on these mini motos, when they crash, the minis are pretty bounceable, so they can get straight back on them and get back racing. We saw 1st and 2nd both crashed on that last lap, so I think everyone had a good go at a crash in that race. But we saw many different race leaders in that one. Your championship leader going into that one, Will Howarth, he crashed right at the beginning. Bernie Hook, obviously, right at the end. But Bernie did such a brilliant job to gauge the conditions. It was only right at the end until he made that mistake, which allowed Josh Birkin to get right onto him. But unfortunately, Josh crashing in the last corner gave it everything he could. But I'm sure he'll be happy to take 2nd position. That's 20 points on the board. 2 wins now for Bernie Hook this weekend, so he'll be happy with that. Closing down the championship lead to Will Howarth.
Yeah, absolutely so. And one rider that will be slightly disappointed maybe after that will be Marco Pandolfo, starting on starting at the back row of the grid in 15th. Made his way all the way through to 2nd at one point, and unfortunately going down at turn 12. Marco will be slightly a little bit disappointed with his race. Just the same place, turn 12 on the exit. You can see the back end just getting away from him and losing control of the bike. But there's a little bit of oil, I think, being spread out on the circuit with a couple of these bikes going down. So we'll get that cleaned up and underway as shortly as possible. But yeah, going back to Marco Pandolfo. but starting P15, going up into almost a race leading position if he'd closed in on Bernie Hook. It's got to be frustrating when you've fought through the field in very tricky conditions only to lose it late on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Marco rode really well coming from 15th on the grid. It was really exciting to see, especially when he got up into third place. He had quite an exciting crash as well. It was quite a good one, but then he managed to get straight back on. It was in 5th place and then found his way back up into the podium to then crash in turn 12 again. So I think he definitely had a bit of a falling out with turn 12. Didn't like that corner at all, but brilliant riding for him. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish the race. I think after 2 crashes, he'd had enough of that one. But he was riding brilliantly. But definitely Bernie Hook was your man of the day.
Yeah, absolutely so. Bernie Hook doing a stellar job out there to hold on, and even with that late fall, back up on the bike and just held on to it. Unfortunately, with Josh Birkin equally going down with 1 corner to go. So it's Josh thinking, he saw glory in his eyes, and unfortunately just a little bit too much power into the final corner, and of course the greasy track surface not willing to help out the tyre grip whatsoever, and he went down, luckily held on to 2nd place. Andy Whedon will be delighted with picking up a podium. He started 6th, made his way up, and Ricky Goosey equally starting 11th, coming in 4th as well. So good result there for Ricky Goosey, and equally several of the drivers. Holly Harris in 6th place after starting on the back row of the grid in 16th. So a good race for Holly. Slight issue, I believe, a couple laps left to go, but she's got to be happy coming through, making up several positions in tricky track conditions. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, for Holly, this was her first race in the Senior Minimoto Championship. She was racing in the LC40 Elites yesterday, but opted to move up. She's 14 years old, so the Senior Minimotos are for 14 years old and older. So she opted to move up as she was one of the older riders. She was just struggling down the straights compared to some of the younger riders on the LC40s. So a good move for Holly, and P6 in her first race in the senior class. I'm sure she'll be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely so. But it is Bernie Hook that took the victory in the Senior Minimotos. Race 1 of round 2 of the 2020 Minibike British Championship with FAB-Racing, the Road to MotoGP, official partner of the BSB. And of course, if you're watching at home, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, you can see it all live, all day on fab-racing.co.uk by listening on motorsport.radio or going to FAB Racing's YouTube and Facebook channel. And yep, it's going to be another brilliant days of action. Very tricky conditions out here. You can see it's slightly starting to clear, so that rain possibly clearing after a very tricky Senior Minimotos race.
Yeah, and if track conditions start changing again for this next race, for the LC40 Elites, when they do get started, it could be seeing another difficult race, because they may start off with a bit less grip, and the grip will come to them as the race goes on. So it'll be an interesting one from that respect as well, for them to be able to sort of stay on the bikes in the first half of the race, and then really come into the rain towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So the LC40 Elite class very, very close after the first round of the season yesterday. Of course, a bumper action-packed weekend here at Lydd. Round 1 was yesterday, round 2, so 48 races over 2 days down here in the southeast of England. Plenty of action for you to sink your teeth into, whether you're in the paddock enjoying the racing live or you're watching at home on all the streaming sites. And the LC40 Elites, it's Charlie Huntingford that leads the championship into round 2 by 2 points to Warwick Brady. Samuel Munson, good day for him yesterday. He's on 41 points with Ryan Hitchcock, who had another pretty exciting day. A lot of moves from Ryan Hitchcock yesterday. He is in 4th and 40 points, and throughout the field you can see just how close the championship are. I think the top 10, or the top 6 split by 10 points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, today will be a very interesting day. You've got Josh Bannister and Ryan Hitchcock side by side on the front. Josh Bannister was just struggling from his few technical issues yesterday, had a DNF in one of the races, did manage to pick up a win yesterday, and is in a good 6th place in the championship at the moment, but I'm sure he'll be looking to better that in this race. Ryan Hitchcock yesterday, though, was starting from the back of the grid after being at the BSB Silverstone support test on Friday. So Ryan now starting from P2 on the grid. We could be seeing a very different race, especially from him. So I think it'll be between those two at the front.
Yep, absolutely so. But watch out for the likes of Samuel Munson, Charlie Huntingford, and equally Joshua Williams, who will be lining up in 6th to make some moves, and Warwick Brady, of course, in 4th. So, the LC40 elite class has been very, very strong, very competitive. We've seen multiple different podiums over round 1, expecting exactly the same. These riders out here, very, very capable of fighting for position, and we've seen some absolutely brilliant moves, in fact, in some of the late stages of yesterday's race 1 and race 2. So expect to see more action as the riders line up on the grid, ready to go for their 2 warm-up laps to start off this one.
And looking outside, Gareth, compared to 5 minutes ago, the ground is already a lot drier than it was at the end of that senior Minimoto race. So I think these guys will definitely have some better race conditions, and we'll be able to find this grip a little bit easier. So we should see more riders staying on the bikes and some faster, closer racing.
Yep, absolutely so. So the grid for this one will be Josh Bannister, the number 2 on pole position, with Ryan Hitchcock, the number 43, alongside him. Samuel Munson, the Bunsen burner, in 3rd place, with Warwick Brady in 4th. Charlie Huntingford, the man that's currently leading the championship, in 5th. Joshua Williams lining up in 6th alongside him on row 3. Marco Holt is on the 4th row of the grid in 7th, alongside Archie O'Brien in 8th. Luke Fitchett back on row 5 in 9th, with Archie Gibbs in 10th. And then in 11th place we've got Ollie Sims. In 12th we've got Thorny Trevorrow and Keaton Payne in 13th, and Wilson Dilks on the back row of the grid in 14th place.
Yeah, it will be a very interesting one for this race. It's a slight gap on the grid as Holly Harris has moved from the LC40 Elites to the senior mini motos. But 2 warm-up laps for these guys to suss out the track conditions and find out where the grip is before they start this race.
Yeah, absolutely so. And just going back to yesterday with round 1, race 1, 2 and 3, we saw multiple podiums, showing off that we're going to have a very, and you can see by the championship standings, that we're going to have a very competitive season. And so tell us more about the drivers.
Yeah, all these guys will be looking to beat Josh Bannister in this race. Josh Bannister is just coming out of pit lane at the moment, was slightly late to the grid, but it won't be a problem for him because he'll be able to join the warm-up laps and get on to the back of this grid. Like we said earlier, it'll be between Josh Bannister and Ryan Hitchcock. It'll be interesting to see what Samuel Munson can do about these two, because these two quite a little bit quicker in terms of pace, a good second quicker in terms of their lap times to get on the grid. But obviously anything can happen in racing, and with the conditions being so interchangeable as they are at the moment, we could see anything happen in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. So the sun has come back out down here in Lydd, so the track will be drying off a little bit after the senior mini motos had a very tricky, greasy surface with a slight rain shower. So I'm sure they will be hoping to have possibly missed out on the worst part of the day, and expecting. We've got the so hopefully the LC40s will be looking for a slightly better track layout, and they can throw it into these corners a little bit better, because we've seen the LC40 elite class really pushing hard. Of course, the liquid cooled 40cc engines, and the top level of the mini motos for these younger riders before they move up into the GP50s.
Yeah, all these riders would have been through the AC40 rookies that we saw earlier on today, and the AC40 pros, and now they're ready for some slightly faster machinery before they move up to gear bikes. Some of these riders already on the GP50s and some on GP70s, so some definitely an experienced field at the moment, and the top racing for juniors on mini motos.
Yep, as the riders all come around the infield section, getting ready to line up on the grid to start off race 1 of round 2 of the LC40 elite class of the FAB-Racing 2020 Minibike British Championships. And you can see everyone filtering into position. It will be Josh Bannister supposedly lining up on the pole alongside Ryan Hitchcock, with Samuel Munson in 3rd, Warwick Brady in 4th, and Charlie Huntingford, the current championship leader, in 5th position.
It looks as if Josh Bannister is just lining up on the back of the grid there, because he didn't get out to get onto the grid for the warm-up laps. So as he was no, he's being promoted to pole. So yeah, he will be starting from the front. So he lines up little stoppy there, get the heat into his brakes before this race. So it'll be Josh Bannister then that's lining up on pole with Ryan Hitchcock just by the side of him. All eyes then to the flag for this one as the revs rise. Josh Bannister then it is with a good start, maintains that lead. Ryan Hitchcock right on his back wheel though, side by side through the right-hander there. So Josh Bannister though that is then demoted to second place. Ryan Hitchcock it is that now has the lead. It looks like Samuel Munson's also lost a position there. He's down to fourth place, having lost a place to the number 99. That's Warwick Brady currently in third. Joshua Williams you can also see there looking very menacing just behind these guys. So it'll be good to see what he can do throughout this race. But Ryan Hitchcock it is now that has the lead and is breaking away. It just looks as if Josh Bannister's struggling for a pace there. He's dropped back to is that fourth place now he's dropped back to, so he's just struggling something, perhaps some more technical issues for Josh Bannister. We saw he had some technical issues yesterday, and so yeah, dropping back quite rapidly, not something you expect to see from the pole man, and perhaps a reason why he was late to the grid, Gareth.
Yeah, you'd have to think so, because he is falling back considering you can see how much time he's already lost. But what is underneath Ryan Hitchcock's bike, because he is rocketed away at the start of this one, got an absolutely brilliant run along the outside into turn 3 and took the lead of this one, and starting to really stretch out. He's already after lap 1 got a 1.7 second gap over Warwick Brady in second. So Ryan Hitchcock mega start. You can see him streaking away at the front.
Yeah, as we look at Josh Bannister, I think he's definitely struggling with something. You can see he seems to be, he's looking down at his bike now, so definitely some sort of issues for Josh Bannister. Really unfortunate for him. He's had a bit of an unlucky weekend this weekend, but Ryan Hitchcock absolutely flying at the front there with Warwick Brady making his way up into second place ahead of Samuel Munson. This battle for second is something we're going to have to keep an eye on. But yeah, very unfortunate for Josh Bannister at the moment. Yeah,
I believe Marco Holt may have just moved past him as well, and it seems that Josh Bannister is slow out of it. It's Charlie Huntingford, that moved past Josh Bannister. And how frustrating is it as a rider when you know there's something wrong with the bike and you're just not getting the power out of those corners?
It's one of the most frustrating things you have to come across as a rider when you know something's going wrong with the machinery. It happens to everyone, and it's unfortunately something you have to deal with. But he seems to still be able to run in this race. So if he can finish this race and get a few points, it'll do very well for his championship this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone wants to know where Ryan Hitchcock is, he's currently 3.2 seconds in the lead. He's absolutely driving away.
Samuel Munson looks like he has a problem there. He tried to get up the inside of Warwick Brady, and now he's trying to get his bike started. I think just a little bit ambitious for the move. And then we have another rider down there. That is the number 73. So that is Ollie Sims, who's gone down there. Fortunately, able to rejoin the race. But yeah.
Josh Williams still trying to close in on Warwick Brady for second place. The gap was 0.3 of a second between the pair across the line. Warwick Brady holding on to what would be another podium for him earlier on in this weekend. And yep, Warwick doing a good job at the moment, but he's now just involved in this battle between himself and Josh, because Ryan Hitchcock is just disappearing up the road. Already a 5-second gap for the race leader.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying out the front, is Ryan Hitchcock. Not only is he able to put down some fast laps, but he's able to do it very consistently, which is just seeing his lead just be stretched absolutely every lap. He's a good couple of seconds faster than anyone on circuit. So yeah, brilliant stuff from Ryan Hitchcock at the front. But we're currently looking at Josh Williams there, who had taken second place, but had it taken back. Warwick Brady now into second place, and looks as if he's just stretched a little bit of a lead through that section. So perhaps a little bit of a mistake from Williams through that first section, but he seems to be clawing it back now. So this battle for second really hotting up at the moment, with 4 laps into this race, and it's the battle for second that we've got our eyes on at the moment. Hitchcock is away at the front and safe to pick up the win.
Yep, great job so far for Hitchcock. Joshua Williams and Warwick Brady still battling over that second place. Number 78, Josh Williams. Number 99, Warwick Brady behind. There's still battles going on. Marco Holt, Archie O'Brien are still going at each other for 5th and 6th position. Josh Bannister down to 7th after what looks like possible bike issues, and with Thori Trevorrow currently closing in 8th place. So Josh Bannister really going to start suffering with losing some points in this championship, as Warwick Brady once again holds on to 2nd place going into this lap, and Josh Williams still pushing hard to close in, and but it is still Ryan Hitchcock now extending that lead every single lap.
This battle for 4th as well that we're just looking at now between the number 76, actually championship leader, Charlie Huntingford. This is hotting up quite nicely as well. He's defending 4th place from Marco Holt and Archie O'Brien. So if he can keep that going, that'll do well for his championship, especially with Josh Bannister out of this race. Warwick Brady though looking good to set up to pick up 20 points from 2nd place in this battle that he's locked in with Joshua Williams. So looks like we could see a change in championship leader by the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely so, and it is Ryan Hitchcock who is doing the best job out there. He comes across the line and extending the lead once again. Josh Williams now up into 2nd, past Warwick Brady. The gap was less than a tenth of a second between the two. Charlie Huntingford up in 4th position, Marco Holt in 5th, Archie O'Brien in 6th, Josh Bannister in 7th, Samuel Munson is in 8th after that bike issue earlier in the race. Luke Fitchett in 9th, and Wilson Dilks rounding out the top 10.
Just looking again at that battle for 2nd place. Josh Williams doing well to get past Warwick Brady, covering his lines now. 6 laps have been done for these guys as they head onto the back straight. We've said time and time again how strong Josh Williams is into that hairpin, so no way through for Warwick Brady on this lap, although he's looking to get very close at the moment, and he will. You've got to think that he's going to have a go for 2nd place. This battle for 2nd place hotting up really nicely here for the first race of the day for these LC40 elites. Going into the last lap then, Warwick Brady takes the lead. Takes 2nd place, but unfortunately crashes out. So that's Warwick Brady, the number 99, unfortunately out of this race. So Joshua Williams, it will be that's looking comfortable to take 2nd place. But this man out the front, Ryan Hitchcock, looks set to take this win. Red flag now, unfortunately. 1 lap to go, we had a red flag, so that will be your results. Ryan Hitchcock, it will be that will take the win there. Will be Joshua Williams in 2nd place. With a red flag, will it go back a lap? With Ryan Hitchcock, it will definitely be who's taken that win then. Joshua Williams will be in 2nd place. We'll wait to see who's going to be that who's going to take 3rd place in this one.
Yeah, but it is Ryan Hitchcock that takes that victory, and he was on another level this morning and just got to the lead early on and just drove away from the rest of the field. So a well deserved ride and well deserved win there for Ryan Hitchcock.
Oh yeah, no one could match Ryan in that one. I mean, he had inferior pace by quite a way, but we know Ryan's a good rider. He's been up through the GP50s, the GP70 class, and I believe he's doing the British Talent Cup as well this year. So he's a well-established rider who's coming back to this class, and showing these boys how to do it. It was a bit of a shame that we couldn't see Josh Bannister have a go, because he was on pole position and did have a faster lap than Ryan yesterday. So it would have been interesting to see if Josh Bannister could have had a go at him. There it is confirmed then. Ryan Hitchcock it was that takes the win. Joshua Williams takes a brilliant 2nd place. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Warwick Brady it is who took the 3rd place despite crashing on that last lap. Charlie Huntingford in 4th then, and Archie O'Brien rounds out your top 5. Marco Holt, the number 58, takes 6th place ahead of Josh Bannister, Samuel Munson, Luke Fitchett and Wilson Dilks rounding out your top 10.
Yep, fantastic race there for the race 1 of the LC40 elite class, and fantastic result for Ryan Hitchcock, and that really helps his championship push in this early stages. And whilst we wait up for the next race, which will be the Pit Bike 140s and Moto Team, they will be heading out on circuit very shortly, and we'll just quickly go to you, Tristan, and you're a rider yourself. Let us know what you're doing this season and what classes and what series you'll be participating in.
Well, this season I've moved up myself from the junior supersport class last year, where I picked up third place in the championship. I'm now moving up to the British Superstock 600 class, which is proving to be a good challenge. I'm really enjoying it at the moment, and it's also great to be here doing this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and myself, Gareth Hall, and Tristan Finocchiaro will be your commentary duo for the entirety of the FAB-Racing 2020 Minibike British Championships, and we welcome everyone watching in the paddock. Hopefully you're all having a good day and a very good morning, and everyone of course watching at home, and if you are watching at home, let us know who you're supporting, who you're rooting for today. Drop into the comments. Always good to hear from you, and equally if you'd like to promote us, why not share and retweet all of the good stuff and push it out to everyone else and tell them come watch the FAB-Racing 2020 Minibike British Championships. And yeah, it's always good to hear from you, and of course you can listen on all different places, whether that be fabracing.co.uk, of course motorsport.radio, where you can hear live commentary all day. Motorsport Radio, the only live streaming 24-hour a day motorsport dedicated radio station, with interviews, live comms, and of course opinion pieces from several motorsport journalists from 2 wheels to 4. And of course you can be watching live on the live stream on FAB-Racing YouTube and Facebook channels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, Gareth, I'm really looking forward to the next race. We have the Pit Bike 140s and Moto Team. In Pit Bike 140s yesterday, we saw a brilliant battle between Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray in that last race yesterday. They were really enjoying their riding, hopping some curbs, doing some wheelies, and really focused on their racing at the same time. So it was brilliant to see. We also saw Will Howarth trying to get in there and battle with them, but he was focused on his own race on the Moto Team class that does run a separate point system to these guys, although you will see them running in the same race. It's Will Howarth who's the front runner in that championship.
Yeah, Will Howarth doing a great job yesterday, and Simon Clowes in fact doing a good job. A couple of podium results for him in the Moto Team class as well, so great result yesterday for Simon. Equally Greg Pym, a couple of third place finishes for the guy, the rider on the Moto Team bike, the number 260, Greg Pym. But yeah, as you say, it was this Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team race over yesterday. In fact, all 3 races were just so much fun to watch, and of course watching Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray go at each other, especially in that third race, where you can tell how much fun they were having, and really utilising the entirety of the circuit. And it was both of us were commentating with a smile on our faces.
Absolutely. I mean, you could tell they were enjoying what they were doing, and then when you see that, it makes us enjoy watching it, because not only was it brilliant racing, but you also saw a few wheelies and a few jumps from them yesterday, and we even got to see right at the end Charlie Nesbitt get completely airborne over the little crest in celebration. It was Brad Ray that took the win. Charlie Nesbitt did take 2 wins yesterday. You can just see there that Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray are just having a little chat with each other next to each other on the grid, as Charlie Nesbitt now lines up on the pole position, stopping to heat his brakes up, and probably a little bit of fun for Charlie as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the number 86, Charlie Nesbitt, lines up on pole position. Will Howarth from the Moto Team bike is in second on the front row of the grid, with Brad Ray, 2-time BSB race winner, in third. Jamie King, don't count him out, back in 4th place, with Eddie O'Shea, the 888 machine, in 5th. Bernie Hook lines up in 6th place, with Chris Wells in 7th. Taylor Lawrence is in 8th place, with Tom Whedon in row 5, with Callum Wybrow in 10th. Darren Anderson in 11th, with William Birkin back in 12th. Kevin Gritton in 13th, with Simon Clowes in 14th, the second of the Moto Team bikes. Then you've got Jack Andrews in 15th. Marco Bandolfo, after that fall in the senior mini bikes, is back on the bike, and he's back in here for the PB 140 race. Greg Pym is in 17th, with Adam Sweeney 18th. Jason Pugh in 19th. Alistair Kinnaird in 20th. And then we've got Vince Bailey in 21st, Paul Coombs 22nd, Elliot Crosby 23rd, Sean Whittaker 24th, Roger Monks 25th, Maxwell Hall in his first race weekend in 26th place, Neil Skinner in 27th, Giorgio Scalata in 28th, Ian Jackson in 29th from row 15, with Frankie Carlton in 30th, and Philip Joyce in 31st, and Iona Glover 32nd, and Phil Maplebeck in 33rd. Tristan, whilst these riders are on their 2 warm-up laps, tell us the difference between the Pit Bike 140 and the Moto Team bikes.
Well, pit bike 140s are more of a sort of supermoto shape. You can see that pit bikes shaped with the wide handlebars, and these are Chinese 140cc engines. Whereas the Moto Team class, they're sort of more of a GP shape, like the Metrokit of Will Howarth. He's on a Metrokit GP50 at the front of this, so they're more GP style and seemed slightly quicker down the straights. Well, Will Howarth's GP50 was definitely had some pace compared to Charlie Nesbitt's pit bike 140 yesterday. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Will Howarth can get his Moto Team bike in between Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray in this one, although will be focused on his own race as he is leading the championship in that, so he can win his race without worrying about the pit bike 140s. Jamie King, we know how fast he can be on 140, struggling a little bit this weekend. He was saying also suffering from a broken rib at the moment from a crash yesterday, but he's back on the bike and raring to go. Looked pretty confident on that warm-up lap, so perhaps we could see something from him, but you've got to think he's going to be struggling a little bit.
Yep, as all the riders filter into their grid slots. A big grid here for the pit bike 140 and Moto Team race, and everyone getting ready to open up the day. And you might want to turn your TVs down a little bit because it's about to get very loud here, both in the paddock and on TV as we get ready to go. And it's going to be Charlie Nesbitt leading away. Does he get a good start? He does, down into one. Brad Ray up into second place. That demotes Will Howarth down into third place. Great start there from Charlie, but he's once again got adversary Brad Ray right behind him.
Yeah, important to remember as well, though, Will Howarth in third, but in his own race as well. So he's leading the Moto Team race at the moment. So that would be Jamie King in fourth, is technically third place in the pit bike 140s.
Yep, absolutely so. And Will Howarth with a 15-point lead in that Moto Team class over Simon Clowes. So Will Howarth will be looking at picking up a decent result. And in fact, he was taking it to Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray yesterday on the different bikes. So yeah, he's no slouch on that one. No, not at all. We've seen how fast Will Howarth is, and that bike he's on, a very good bike. We see how quick it is down the straights compared to those pit bike 140s, and I'm sure that it'll be handling beautifully as well. But you can just see there how confident Brad Ray and Charlie Nesbitt are through some of these corners, getting brilliantly in angle there. You can just see Charlie Nesbitt there through the right-hander at the top of the circuit, absolutely utilising his vision. You can tell he's an accomplished rider, looking at all his markers, and right at the point, you see right at the apex, he moves his head and looks towards the edge of the circuit and makes sure he's looking at all his markers. Looks like we have a yellow flag down at the last corner as your leaders come through. Charlie Nesbitt's having a look to see what that yellow flag's all about. But as well, also another rider that's in this championship today that wasn't yesterday is the junior super sport rider Rossi Banham. He's riding in the BSB championship, and he'll be starting from the back of the grid on this one today, so it'll be interesting to see if he can make his way up. He won't have had any track time this weekend, so straight onto the track for him. But a change now for second place in this race, still leading the Moto Team, but second place overall in this race is Will Howarth. So he's managed to sandwich himself in between Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray, but he now takes the lead ahead of Charlie Nesbitt. So what can Charlie Nesbitt do about the Moto Team bike of Will Howarth? So that's Will Howarth leading the overall race and leading the Moto Team race by quite some distance. Yeah, brilliant last two laps there for Will Howarth. Did exactly the same move on both Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray to come up from third. Now leads the race, and of course leading the class of Moto Team. Behind in second in class in Moto Team is Greg Pym. So he is currently ahead of Simon Clowes, who's is currently a couple of positions back. So Simon Clowes is dropping back a little bit. So yeah, Greg Pym doing a good job in 10th place on circuit, second place in class. But yeah, we've got a breakaway top four with Charlie Nesbitt, Brad Ray and Jamie King.
That's two riders down there as well. That's the number 12 and the number 56. That's William Birkin down there, and number 4 we do not have at the moment. But yeah, Will Howarth doing really well to stay in front of the two BSB riders at the moment. Definitely tough one to do. Brad Ray up into second place now, so he's ahead of Charlie Nesbitt as they just come up to some back markers there. That's one of the Moto Team bikes, and Iona Glover on the pit bike 140. They make their way through the back markers nice and smoothly. Brad Ray not knowing where to look on the back straight there, just having a nice look around him and having a look at the scenery as he goes down the back straight, probably looking for his mate Charlie Nesbitt.
Yeah, absolutely. These two had a lot of fun yesterday battling on circuit, and we saw yesterday the traffic really started to become an issue with the leaders, and it was Charlie Nesbitt was one of the ones that was really able to fight his way through. So yeah, of course, with such a big grid, traffic will become an issue for with Will Howarth. You can see going a little bit deeper on the exit of the hairpin, and that's going to allow Brad Ray, who's now up into second, past Charlie Nesbitt, and Brad will be chasing down. But yeah, Will Howarth, good start for him so far, leading, but the top three breakaway down into penultimate corner, and it's going to be close. By the last lap they came across the line, split by 0.2 of a second. We'll see if it's any closer this time, because it's looking mighty close, and it is once again 0.2 of a second splitting them. And you can see lap traffic already starting to affect Brad Ray, using the curbs to hop over the exit, the entry to turn 3. So using that pit bike to real use, and getting
and a brilliant move there from Charlie Nesbitt, just pushes Brad Ray out the way and finds his way through on Will Howarth at the same time. So that was 2 in one corner down at the far end of the circuit. So an absolutely brilliant move there from Charlie Nesbitt. A little bit of contact with Brad Ray, but I don't think it's anything that's going to unsettle the 2-time BSB race winner.
No, absolutely not. Brilliant move there for Charlie Nesbitt. Just saw the gap and went for it, and picked up 2 positions. Well, as there's that's William Birkin, I believe, on the side, trying to restart his bike. Unfortunately, that looks like it's the end of his race. But yeah, Charlie Nesbitt now leads this one. The gap across the line was 0.05 of a second between himself and Will Howarth. We've got 4 laps left to go in this one, so it's going to be mighty close once again. And Will Howarth from that Moto Team bike doing a great job.
So yeah, Will Howarth in second place overall in this race, leading the Moto Team race at the moment. Greg Pym currently in second in that one, and it looks like Jason Pugh, I believe, is in third at the moment, but difficult one to call at the moment with all these bikes mixed in with each other. But Charlie Nesbitt then trying to make his way through some more back markers round the outside into turn 1. Will Howarth didn't quite make his way round that back marker. Very unfortunate for Will Howarth. We saw yesterday in this class and also in the senior mini motors, Will Howarth seems to struggle getting through the back markers as quickly as some of the other riders. You see Nesbitt's really swift with it, can get past them really quickly, knows exactly where and when to make a move. Will Howarth, he won't be too fussed about that, because he's still leading his own championship. He's still going to take this Moto Team race win if all stays like this. But yeah, perhaps something to work on, because it did see him lose a race yesterday in the senior mini motos as well.
Yep, and it is Brad Ray that jumps up past Will Howarth from the exit of the long hairpin at the back end of the circuit on that one. So Brad Ray now up into second. Will Howarth drops back down into third after leading earlier on, but the gap between the top 3 is still 0.8 of a second, so it's going to go right down to the wire with 2 laps left to go in this one. Battles all throughout the field, and you can see several riders out there fighting over position. You can see there's a huge gaggle of bikes coming around turn 12 onto the back straight now as they all fight over position. Brad Ray looking behind him to try and see where Will Howarth is, but Will's dropped back a couple of lengths, so it's now going to be Brad Ray versus Charlie Nesbitt on the last lap.
Yeah, really exciting stuff then. Brad Ray managed to get the better of Charlie Nesbitt yesterday, so we'll have to wait and see if he can do the same today. Back markers playing a big part in this race. Charlie Nesbitt just catching them in the wrong place, but manages to get underneath, and so does Brad Ray through there. Don't think there's any room anymore for one more, but he's trying to push his bike to get quicker under that section. Manages to get through him into this one. So only a few corners to go of this race as they head down the back straight. Charlie Nesbitt goes real defensive, making sure Brad Ray can't get underneath him. Nice defensive line there for Charlie Nesbitt, and it looks like he's going to hold him. So Charlie Nesbitt then it is who comes across the line and takes the win. He looks delighted with that after being beaten by Brad Ray yesterday. He looks absolutely ecstatic. He's opening his visor, trying to find where Brad Ray is. Brilliant stuff from him. Will Howarth it is then who's going to take that Moto Team win ahead of Greg Pym, Alistair Kinnaird and Vince Bailey, Ian Jackson rounding out your top 5 in the Moto Team. So brilliant stuff from both of these classes, but it's all about the battle between Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray. He's going to jump the crest again. They both jump simultaneously, so some brilliant entertainment from them as they celebrate a brilliant race in this Pit Bike 140 race.
These two could race around all day and I think everyone would be laughing and enjoying it, because it's been absolutely spectacular every time we've seen Brad Ray versus Charlie Nesbitt on circuit. And equally joined by Will Howarth, unfortunately couldn't quite stay with them in the final races, but he once again picks up the victory in the Moto Team class. But it is Charlie Nesbitt that wins that one ahead of Brad Ray. Then you've got Will Howarth in 3rd place, Jamie King in 4th with Callum Wybrow in 5th, then Rossi Banham in 6th place with Marco Pandolfo up to 7th. They've got Bernie Hook in 8th with Greg Pym 9th, Alistair Kinnaird in 10th place. And yeah, once again, the Pit Bike 140s in the Moto Team class just offering so much entertainment, so much fun, and you can really tell these riders out there just enjoying themselves, enjoying the competition, but just going out and just going for it.
Yeah, absolutely, Gareth. And I want to give a quick shout out at the end there to Rossi Banham in 6th place, making his way right from the back of the grid. Hasn't had any track time on this track this weekend. That'll be his first session of the day, and made his way from right at the back of the grid to 6th place. But now all our attention goes to the Mini GP 50 class. This is a class for the junior riders getting their first taste of a slightly bigger bike and gearbox racing. So it's always interesting racing in this class. We saw a few different race winners yesterday. We saw some exciting racing with Ethan Sparks taking a win at the last corner yesterday. Also Ronnie Harris with a runaway win right at the end. He leads the championship at the moment. Another race winner yesterday, Mason Foster, the number 88. He's currently 2nd in the championship ahead of Ethan Sparks, who we've just spoken about.
Yeah, race 1 yesterday for round 1. If you've missed it and you didn't get to see everything that happened yesterday, go back and watch it. It was an intense finish with Ronnie Harris and Ethan Sparks coming across the line right next to each other, with Ethan Sparks picking up the win by 0.06 of a second. It was too close to call on the camera. We had to go to the timing screens, but it was Ethan Sparks with a late move into the final corner, picking up a 4th win of the day for him, and as he of course picked up some wins earlier on the Minimoto. So yeah, Ethan Sparks having a good weekend so far. Equally, Mason Foster, a couple of race victories in, but in fact it's Ronnie Harris that leads the championship. He's had a really solid and consistent Saturday. He's currently sitting on 65 points, 4 ahead of Mason Foster back on 61. Ethan Sparks back on 57 before a 20-point gap back to Ollie Horner in 4th.
And we're having reports at the moment to say that now the track is completely bone dry from the rain we had earlier on. So lots of grip then for these riders to get back on the pace and to see some exciting racing. I mean, we saw how much confidence those Pit Bike 140s had in that last race. You could see how much lean angle both Brad Ray and Charlie Nesbitt were running, and how quickly they were changing direction. So no issues for grip anymore like we saw in the senior Mini Motos race, but hopefully some brilliant racing then for these guys.
We're just waiting for a little bit of a spillage up at the top part of the circuit to be cleared away before we send out these MKGP 50s, and we can see outside the breeze, and much like yesterday, the sea breeze coming over the circuit is starting to pick up as the day goes on. And how does that affect the bike as you're riding it with possibly, as we saw yesterday, perhaps a calmer day as the morning starts, and as the day goes on, that breeze starts to wash its way across the circuit? How does it change how these riders behave, how they perhaps transfer their body weight into each corner?
Well, these little riders on these very light bikes, they will be feeling the wind. It's natural. Some riders tend to be a bit more unsettled by the wind than others. Personally, I've never really been that bothered by the wind. You feel it, but you just sort of ride around it. But yeah, these guys, they will definitely be feeling it on these little bikes.
Yeah, so we say a big thank you to the wonderful marshals out there helping out, clearing up the spillages at the top end of the circuit. Of course, we couldn't do any of this without a lot of our volunteer staff here at Lydd Carden Circuit. So big thank you to everyone out there making sure that the races all go ahead as planned. And I'm sure the MKGP 50 class will be going out on circuit a lot happier that the corner at the top end of the circuit is much clearer. But it's Tristan, when you go out there and perhaps there is oil or some sort of fuel on the circuit, how does that change? Because obviously you can't see it. It's obviously most of the time it's not visible on the circuit. So when you come across a patch like that, let us know what it's like. But what does the bike feel like with its under the wheels?
Oh, you have no chance. If there's oil or petrol, there's no chance. That's why marshals will always clean it up. They'll put the cement dust down and make sure that it's safe to run, because it's almost like hitting black ice or something in a car. You have absolutely no chance. The worst experience I had was recently in Portugal on a moped. I went round a roundabout, hit an oil patch, and binned it on a roundabout. So that was a bit of an embarrassing experience for me, but I learnt the hard way that there's absolutely no grip on oil or anything like that.
Oh, clearly just not a good enough rider. Any good rider would have stayed on two wheels there. So you're a little bit try hard.
I tried to save it on my elbow, but it didn't quite work in shorts and a t-shirt. Well, just whilst we've got the break, obviously you participated in FAB a couple of seasons ago, a couple of years ago. Let us know how it's progressed from when you were taking part to what it's like now. Well, it was a good 8 years ago now since I've raced in FAB, but it's virtually, the formula works, so it hasn't really changed that much, because it's a formula we know works, and we know brings talent up into big bike racing. The only thing really that's changed, I think, is probably the names of the classes, but apart from that, the fundamental sort of formula behind the championship is still there, because it works really well, and we've seen it. It's proven. We know the likes of Danny Kent, Scott Redding, Charlie Nesbitt, Brad Ray, all sorts of riders that have come up through these championships, into the British Championships, into the World Championships, and of course it is the partner to the official Bennett's BSB series, so it's an easy road into BSB, and also part of the road to MotoGP. So the next step for a lot of these young guys is to go into the British Talent Cup, and then possibly, if they win that, get a ride in the British Talent team, like we've seen Max Cook and Scott Ogden do, and ride in the Junior World Championship. And hopefully we'll see those riders progress as well into the world stage, onto the Moto3 class. That would be brilliant to see. But this is where it all starts out. You can just see these MKGP 70 riders now going out to start their formation lap, to line up on the grid and do their 2 warm-up laps. You can just see them there practicing their starts. One rider we think does need a little bit of practice on his starts is Mason Foster. We saw him yesterday struggling a little bit at the beginning of the race, and then having to climb his way up through the race as the race went on. He did manage to pick up a win yesterday, so he did a very good job at recovering from that, but it would be good to see him improve from that today. But it looks like we have a rider stop. That's Philip Sorowak with a problem at the moment. He's rejoined the track though, so hopefully all okay for that rider. But yeah, like we were saying, hopefully Mason Foster, we can see him improving his start of the race, so he's in the battle all the way through this race.
Yep, of course, this is the MKGP 50 class, 50cc engine, liquid cooled. These riders will be getting used to a 6-speed gearbox for the first time ever, with a manual clutch, hydraulic front and rear disc brakes, 12-inch wheels, minimum age of 8 years old for this class, and they need to have completed 1 season in the Minimotos. The MKGP 50s can do upwards of 80 miles an hour, which is nothing to worry about if you're on the bikes. So I'm sure they've been used to plenty of speed, but Lydd is more kind of tight, twisty, fast corners than open straight. So it really tests these drivers when it comes to their racecraft of keeping it especially tight on apexes when defending, as opposed to this dynamic chasing each other down back straights and getting in the tow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not a great deal of passing opportunities at Lydd, but that being said, we see especially in the Pit Bike 140 class with Charlie and Brad, how they can make a move stick anywhere if they really want to try it. So yeah, it's
it's brilliant for them to learn their racecraft and also learn change of direction, which is a big thing on these bigger, heavier bikes. One thing people overlook massively as well is the transition from the Minimoto to these MK GP50 machines is they won't have had much experience with suspension on a bike. Obviously Minimotos don't have suspension on, they've got hard nose and a hard tail, so they'll be getting used to weight transition and how the weight transitions from the front to the rear on the entrance and mid-corner and the exit of the corners. So it's something that they will learn naturally. It's not something they'll have to think about, but it is something they have to get used to. So and this is a great place for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let us know whilst they're heading out on their formation laps, what's that like as these riders get older? Because obviously you get heavier, you get taller. So as obviously you can come in from 8 years old and you can go off to a slightly older age in here. So what's it like with the transition in age and body weight and height?
Yeah, well, a lot of these lads they've prepped themselves up for this. They've targeted it. They know that that was going to be their next step from the Minimotos. And they all do a good job of it. You can see all these lads, familiar names that we see in the smaller bikes, coming up and doing well on the bigger bikes as well. Mason Foster, who we were just talking about then, struggling with his starts, but he will line up on pole position, so hopefully he can get away well there. Lining up next to him is Ethan Sparks, who's currently third in the championship on the number 62. He's second on the front row. Ronnie Harris is then in third, ahead of the number 72 of Samuel Munson, who'll line up in fourth spot. On the third row of the grid, Ollie Horner will lead that row, ahead of Clayton Edmonds and the number 100 of Cameron Sewell in seventh spot. Number 67 of Jacob Stevenson is eighth on the grid, ahead of Harrison McKay and Blake Wilson, rounding out your top 10. Warwick Brady then, who we saw earlier on today, he's 11th, ahead of Charlie Huntingford in 12th, Casey Sperry, Harry Payne and Philip Sorowak in 15th spot. Ollie Sims then lining up just next to him. He's 16th, ahead of Aston Dean, Dominic Gardner and Azia Devine in 19th place, and rounding out your grid.
Yep, absolutely so. And Mason Foster needs to work on his starts, but he's been very strong, picking up some good results. Currently second in the championship on 61 points. The man leading the championship is Ronnie Harris, who will line up third. And watch out for I've said it yesterday a couple of times, the beautiful white and red liveried bike, and looking very classic, very nice indeed. And Ronnie had a couple of really decent results yesterday, so that's why he finds himself at the top of the standings. And coming from third, he's had some very, very strong starts. So Mason Foster and Ethan Sparks will have to look behind, because Ronnie Harris will be right on their tail from the start.
Absolutely. Ronnie Harris, your championship leader, will be looking for another win. He took the win yesterday in the final race. All top three in the championship have all taken a win, so it'd be interesting to see if Samuel Munson can get in and join the party. He's not too far behind, fourth spot on the grid, so he'll be looking to try and get a podium and try and mix it in with these guys. But it's these top three who have been in an absolute world of their own this weekend. As they look to the flag, the revs are rising and they are away. Mason Foster looks to have a decent start this time. He's held on to the lead, so he's definitely been working on those starts. Mason Foster then it is that holds the lead ahead of Ethan Sparks. Looks like we have a change for third place. Ronnie Harris has dropped back to fourth spot, and that's the number 146 who's made his way up into third. That's Clayton Edmonds, but Ronnie Harris is just reclaiming his third spot to make sure that Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris doesn't get Mason Foster doesn't get away. We did see a runaway winner yesterday in Ronnie Harris, so now Mason Foster with a good start. Perhaps we might see a runaway winner in the form of Mason Foster. Yep,
Mason Foster is in the perfect place, leading the first lap. Ethan Sparks has now got Ronnie Harris, who had a dreadful start, down to fifth place at turn 2, has managed to recover back up to third by the end of the first lap, and he's now right on the tail of Ethan Sparks as they go into lap 2. And Ronnie Harris leading the championship so far. The number 66 rider is going to put the pressure on Ethan Sparks, but those two battling as Ronnie Harris gets alongside as they go out of the hairpin over the crest into the double right-hander. And
he's so good coming out of that corner. He manages to turn it tight and get a real good drive, and that's how he got past Clayton Edmonds on that last lap. So it's definitely something to watch out for, and he's able to do it here as well. He's able to just hold a tighter line and get that drive onto the straight, which will really help him when he gets to the braking point of any corner on this circuit.
Absolutely so, but it is Mason Foster leading this one. Good gap with Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris taking it to each other over second place. Ollie Horner is back in fourth place, I believe it is. Ollie Horner in fourth once again, which is a position that he's held, I believe, every race so far. So Ollie Horner, consistent points, but he will be eyeing up a podium. But to do so, he's going to have to close in on this drive away top three with Mason Foster breaking away behind. It is Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris still going at each other, with Ronnie Harris just eyeing up Ethan Sparks down the back straight into penultimate corner, but not quite close enough to get a move. And we know behind with Ethan Sparks that even if he's in front or behind, he's not too shabby into that final two corners. Very late on the brakes. We've seen some really, really brilliant overtakes from him this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that classic one was the one where he took the win yesterday. Last lap, last corner, took the lunge and took the win. So yeah, some brilliant stuff from Ethan Sparks into that final corner. Ronnie Harris, though, looking absolutely determined to try and take this second spot away from him. Gets very close to him into the right-hander just after the hairpin onto this complex. Going into the back straight. Ronnie Harris getting very close behind Ethan Sparks now. He's trying to find his way past, doing well to study Ethan Sparks at the moment, but he needs to be careful because Mason Foster at the front here is just edging that lead out further and further as this race goes on.
Yeah, Ronnie Harris with a good run out of turn 2 and turn 3, gets up alongside, not quite close enough, but it is Mason Foster leading by 2.5 seconds over the 62 and the 66 of Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris. Ollie Horner is holding on to fourth place with a gap between himself and Clayton Edmonds. Samuel Munson is having a fight with Harrison McKay for 6th and 7th, whilst behind Cameron Sewell and Brady are battling over 8th and 9th. The number 199 machines in 8th and 9th. Blake Wilson rounding out your top 10 for the MKGP 50s.
Sam Munson, who's just on screen there with the red bike, the number 72, just coming through the picture there. He seems to be struggling a little bit in this race. Down in 6th place at the moment, so a bit struggling for him. He started 4th on the grid, and we were talking at the beginning of the race and wondering if he could mix it with the front three, but it just looks like he's struggling for pace in this one at the moment. Embroiled in a good battle, but I think he wanted it to be a little bit higher up.
Yeah, Samuel Munson, of course, had an issue on the mini-motos earlier on, so perhaps that frustration still in his head, and he's just taking a while to get back into his rhythm, and he's currently in 6th place on circuit, looking at moving forward. We know that he's got the talent to do so, just needs to put it into practice. But the man that's starting to run away with it is Mason Foster. That's a 3-second lead. Ronnie Harris and Ethan Sparks split by less than a 1/10 of a second over the line, so it's getting mighty close between Ronnie Harris as he looks at making up some points to extend that championship lead, because with Mason Foster starting to run away with it, he's going to close in. Of course, those two split by 4 points in the championship battle at the moment after round 1, so Ronnie Harris needs to get a shift on and get past Ethan Sparks, but that's no mean feat. Gets up along him, but Ethan Sparks able to get the power down earlier and holds on to the position.
Yeah, I think now it's going to be all about this battle for second place with the laps ticking. I don't think either of these guys are going to be able to bridge that gap to Mason Foster. Ronnie Harris, though, absolutely studying Ethan Sparks, having a look at absolutely everywhere where he can try and get through. Back markers now in this race that they're coming up to, so that could play a part in this race, as Ronnie Harris is still having a look at what he can do about Ethan Sparks. But Ronnie Harris looks like just caught in behind another rider that they're coming around to lap there. So very unfortunate for Ronnie Harris rather. Ethan Sparks has now got a little bit of breathing space ahead of Ronnie Harris. We saw that Ronnie could catch Ethan earlier in the race, but will he be able to do it again? As we say that, though, the gap between Sparks and Foster has also come down, so perhaps Foster also having a little bit of trouble coming through lap traffic.
Yep, absolutely so, but it is Mason Foster that leads this one with 3 laps to go, ahead of Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris in 2nd and 3rd. Ollie Horner in 4th, with Sammy Munson holding on to 5th place ahead of Clayton Edmonds. Warwick Brady in 7th ahead of Harrison McKay in 8th. Cameron Sewell and Blake Wilson round out your top 10. but it is Mason Foster that's looking as though he might add to his win tally from yesterday, and with that 3.5 second gap with 2.5 laps left to go, and Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris still fighting this race-long battle over second place. It's allowed Mason just to drive away and just focus on his own race.
Yeah, 3 laps to go then for these guys as they head into the final corner. Once again, Ronnie Harris now right up onto the back wheel of Ethan Sparks. He's closed down that small gap that emerged at the beginning of the last lap. 2 laps to go then for these guys. Mason Foster looking very comfortable. 4-second lead, managed to stretch it out by another 2 seconds on that last lap. So comfortable lead for Mason Foster at the moment with 2 laps to go. Ronnie Harris, though, it's all about what he can do to get past Ethan Sparks. He gets right alongside him coming out of the hairpin once again, but still not quite enough to get underneath him into the right-hander before that last complex before the back straight. Right up on his back wheel, though, and he has been all race, so it's going to be really interesting to see where Ronnie Harris can make a move on Ethan Sparks.
Yeah, of course, it was Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris that had that mighty close finish in race 1 yesterday, and maybe that's in Ronnie Harris's head that this time I'm going to do it to Ethan. So will he make a lunge into the final corner? But it's Mason Foster leading us around for this one. The last tour of the lap here at Lydd in the MK Mini GP 50 class, and Mason Foster has controlled this from the front. He's going to take a flag to flag victory. He's made his way through all the lap traffic without losing any time, and of course the battle behind with Ronnie Harris and Ethan Sparks, which is heating up. In fact, Ronnie Harris has got a really good run on Ethan Sparks down the back straight. Is he going to do the same thing to Ethan? But around the final corner and across the line comes Mason Foster. Behind it's going to be Ethan Sparks. He's going to go side by side, but he holds on to the second place. Ronnie Harris has to hold on for third. Just couldn't quite get the move done. Ollie Horner is going to come across the line and pick up another 4th place, so more consistent points there for Ollie. And behind, it's all going on. Clayton Edmonds, Warwick Brady, Cameron Stoll and Harrison McKay are all enjoying some battles between themselves, and with lap traffic, I believe, as well, making that get even closer. But across the line does come Sammy Munson in 5th, Warwick Brady in 6th, Clayton Edmonds in 7th, Cameron Stoll, Harrison McKay and Blake Wilson holding on to the top 10.
Brilliant defensive ride from Ethan Sparks. He covered his lines all race long and managed to defend from Ronnie Harris. Mason Foster, though, very different races. Very different race compared to the races he had yesterday. We asked at the beginning of this race what could he do if he could nail that start. Well, he nailed the start, and there it is confirmed. Mason Foster, who took the win with a hefty 3.6 second lead over Ethan Sparks. Ronnie Harris, a good 3rd place for him, your championship leader going into this race. Ollie Horner it is then that takes 4th spot ahead of Samuel Munson, who we were talking about earlier on, the number 72. He rounds out your top 5. The number 99 of Warwick Brady it was who took 6th place ahead of the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds. Cameron Stoll in 8th place, Harrison McKay and Blake Wilson rounding out your top 10.
Mason Foster really deserving of that one. The only rider into the 43s with a 43.942. Takes the fastest lap of the race. 0.4 of a second faster than Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris, whose best lap times were split by less than 0.02 of a second. So both of those guys pushing hard. We've got 2 races left to go of the first race lineup. And next up will be the Extreme 200, another series that we saw with a lot of fun happening between Casey O'Gorman, who will line up on the pole, and Charlie Nesbitt in 2nd.
Absolutely, I'm really excited for this one because what we saw yesterday was a lot of fast riders in this class starting at the back of the grid because they were testing at BSB on Friday. But now the grid is completely different. We've got Casey O'Gorman on pole. He was starting from further back yesterday. Charlie Nesbitt 2nd, who took the wins yesterday. He took 2 wins yesterday. Casey O'Gorman did manage to get a win yesterday as well, but we were robbed for a battle between those 2 riders. So hopefully today, with them starting side by side on the grid, we'll finally see that battle between Casey O'Gorman and Charlie Nesbitt. Don't count out, of course, though, Cameron Horseman in 3rd spot, Eddie O'Shea, Harrison Crosby and Harvey Claridge, also all very fast riders that can run at the front of this race. And now starting further up the grid, we could see a good battle for this lead. Casey O'Gorman then, who's starting from pole.
Absolutely, and Casey O'Gorman, tell us a little bit more about him. And
Sorry, that's Casey O'Gorman there, who looks to be having some trouble. So perhaps we're going to be robbed from that battle between Charlie and Casey once again. He's stopped on the circuit, so perhaps some technical issues for Casey O'Gorman. So nightmare for Casey at the moment.
So that is Charlie Nesbitt that's currently promoted into the lead with as they come up to the grid. So Charlie Nesbitt is currently provisionally lining up on what would be pole position, but is going to be in the second place grid slot. Cameron Horseman in third. He had a couple of decent results yesterday with some podium finishes. So Cameron Horseman, one to watch out for in this. He is no slouch and will be looking at picking up some decent points. He's currently third in the championship. Casey O'Gorman currently leading on 65 points, 10 points ahead of Charlie Nesbitt on 55. Cameron Horseman back on 48, so within striking range of Charlie Nesbitt ahead. Harrison Crosby only 2 points back on 46, so the top four all split by 20 points or so. So yeah, Harrison Crosby, Cameron Horseman and Charlie Nesbitt all fighting quite tightly over that second place. A little bit of a gap to catch up between themselves and Casey.
Yeah, so looks quite difficult for Casey O'Gorman to get his bike started now. Always frustrating, but it looks like the bike is up and running now, and he's ready to start this race. Very unfortunate scenes for Casey, but back up and running now, and we'll be back ready to line up on that pole position. So we finally get to see, hopefully, that battle between Casey and Charlie that we've been talking about all weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 172, Casey O'Gorman, supposedly lining up on the pole. We'll see if he filters through as he comes around and gets into his
and that's
grid
the
slot.
number 43 there. That's Ryan Hitchcock, who's starting from pit lane there, but he will be able to join onto the back of the grid after these two warm-up laps. So no problems for Ryan Hitchcock. Slightly late to the grid, but no problem for him. So as they go on to start their two warm-up laps, Ryan Hitchcock joining onto the back of these guys. So yeah, brilliant stuff. To see Ryan Hitchcock able to get out there, and of course Casey O'Gorman after it was looking difficult for him to join this race after the issues he was having just there.
Yeah, and but it is going to be Charlie Nesbitt and Casey O'Gorman at the front of this one, which is the battle that we all want to see. Of course, Charlie has probably had the strongest weekend so far out of anyone at the circuit, and he will be putting the pressure on Casey, I'm sure, throughout the entirety of this one as they come across the line. And it is going to be an absolutely mega race. Casey is going to be pushing hard. A lot of talent for Casey O'Gorman.
Yeah, absolutely, a very talented rider. I mean, we've seen him in FAB-Racing before. He's come up through the classes here and promoted himself into Spanish Championships and into British Talent Cup now, where he's doing very well in testing. So yeah, definitely a hot talent for the future and a name to look out for sure. But there's quite a few British Talent Cup riders on this grid. You've got Cameron Horseman, who's been promoted from the British Talent Cup. He's riding a GP2 this year. He was British Talent Cup runner-up last year. Eddie O'Shea, he's a British Talent Cup rider. Harrison Crosby also, he's fifth on the grid and definitely capable of running at the front of this race. Harvey Claridge, we've seen him in many classes in FAB-Racing, and he's in the British Talent Cup at the moment as well. Bailey Stewart Campbell in 8th place. He lines up just beside Tom Whedon. Ryan Hitchcock also further back on this grid, the number 43. We've seen him in British Talent Cup. Taylor Lawrence, the number 10, he'll line up just next to him in 10th spot. And then it looks like James Cook. But all the attention is to the lights now as Charlie Nesbitt gets a rocket start from second position to take the lead then. Absolutely brilliant start from Charlie Nesbitt. He's already got a tiny bit of breathing space, but all over the back of him at the moment is the number 72 of Cameron Horseman, all over the back of Casey O'Gorman. So will we see a few riders battling for the lead, or will Charlie Nesbitt be able to run away with it like he has done yesterday? Casey O'Gorman, though, you'd like to think he'd be able to stick with Charlie.
Yeah, keep your eyes on this one. Everyone watching in the paddock and at home, because it's going to get very tasty indeed. Charlie Nesbitt leads across the line, but Casey O'Gorman and Cameron Horseman are going with him. We've got a breakaway 3 after lap 1. We've got, it's
Harvey Claridge
in third.
The other British Talent
so
Cup.
Harvey Claridge with
number
them in
16.
third.
So yeah, brilliant start from Harvey Claridge to come back from 6th on the grid up into third spot. We thought that was Cameron Horseman at the beginning. Bailey Stewart Campbell as well, also a brilliant start up into 4th place, so brilliant stuff from him. Another British Talent Cup rider. It's almost like a second British Talent Cup race, this one with Charlie Nesbitt, showing these boys how it's done.
Yeah, absolutely so. And down into the next lap, it is still Charlie Nesbitt that leads this one with Casey O'Gorman going with him. It's a little bit slow out of turn 1 and turn 2 there for Harvey Claridge, and he's been dropped a little bit by Casey and Charlie, who are starting to put the pressure on. And Casey O'Gorman was split 2.5 tenths of a second between himself and Charlie Nesbitt, so Charlie's got a race on if he's to hold on to another win in the Extreme 200s here. Their first race of round 2 here at Lydd in the southeast of England in Kent. But down the back straight, Charlie, you can see head down, trying to minimise the drag and pull away from Casey O'Gorman, but Casey, eyes fully fixed on the rear of Charlie Nesbitt's bike, and he will be chasing him down as they come across the line. Their best laps are split by about 1/10 of a second. Charlie Nesbitt just with the advantage.
Yeah, Charlie Nesbitt doing a great job at the front to set a good pace. 40.7, that's the quickest lap we've seen all weekend, but Casey O'Gorman just about managing to match him with a 40.8. So these guys at the front pushing real hard to try and make a break. Charlie's trying to make a break from Casey, but it's not quite working at the moment. He's got a little bit of breathing space at the moment, but as we look currently at the battle between Bailey Stewart Campbell and Harrison Crosby, the number 93. Very interesting battle going on there for 4th position. Tom Whedon there as well, the number 14, with the bright yellow leathers, just clinging on to the back of these guys. But there is Harvey Claridge, the number 16, currently in 3rd place, coming under a little bit of pressure here from the number, can't quite make out what that number is, but coming under a little bit of pressure for 3rd place is the British Talent Cup rider at the moment.
Yeah, and Harvey Claridge, good start from him, up in 3rd position in the opening stages. He started 6th on the grid, so it's good to see him moving forward, however, falling back a little bit from this lead battle, Charlie Nesbitt and Casey O'Gorman. And in fact, Charlie starting to extend a bit of a lead over Casey. It's now up to 0.8 of a second. Harvey Claridge 4.2 seconds back. The battle is going on between Harrison Crosby and Bailey Stewart Campbell. The pair split by 0.2 of a second across the line. Harrison Crosby moving up past Bailey Stewart Campbell. Harrison, another rider that had a good weekend, good Saturday, a couple of podiums. So yeah, Harrison, a one to watch, pushing up towards that podium.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw how quick Harrison Crosby was yesterday, and he's really pushing on in the low 41s now. So brilliant stuff from him. But someone who's really pushing on is your race leader, Charlie Nesbitt. 40.6 on that last lap. Just slightly dropped off there with a 41 flat, but doing a really good job to control this race at the front. As we look at Harvey Claridge defending 3rd place now, the number 16. You can see with the British Talent Cup leathers, white liveried bike, doing really well to cover his lines at the moment and defend that 3rd place. A little bit of a slide there just behind, but nothing too much to worry about for that rider.
No, absolutely not. But as you say, Charlie Nesbitt extending that gap at the front. His best lap of 40.6. As you said, the best lap we've seen so far this weekend. And he's getting faster and faster and faster with every race. He's taking at least 1/10 of a second off his time. We're heading down towards the low 40s, which is a remarkable time, especially on these Extreme 200s. And Charlie Nesbitt really enjoying his weekend at Lydd. And Casey O'Gorman trying to put the pressure on, but Charlie is just seemed to have every race he's been part of locked in.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys we saw yesterday push each other to the absolute limits. Casey O'Gorman now with a 40.6. So yeah, these guys pushing each other really hard. You can see on track he's definitely closer. Half a second it was over the line last time, as we almost see a change for 3rd place now as Harvey Claridge is defending from the number 8. think we may have a problem with the transponder for the number 8 because he's not coming up on our timing screens at the moment. It's Harrison Crosby who we have in fourth spot on the timing screens, who's actually 5th. So Harvey Claridge currently defending from the number 8 rider just behind him, and loses. So Harvey Claridge down to 4th spot at the moment. So that is disaster for Harvey Claridge as he's falling back through the field and has just caught up with the back marker there. So he's just trying to find his way past that back marker but struggling. He's going to fall into the clutches of Harrison Crosby now.
Yeah, the gap at the front is now closed up to 0.3 of a second. Traffic starting to become a problem for Charlie Nesbitt, and it's allowed Casey O'Gorman to close right up as we go in with 3 laps left to go in this one. So battle not over. Expect to see it go down to the wire. Casey O'Gorman not willing to give up. We've seen yesterday making late moves to take victories in several classes, and Casey is not going to give up. Charlie's got a bit of work to hold on to this win in the Extreme 200s, but we've seen he's already taken it to task to try and pick up as many wins as possible this weekend, and but Casey is going to close him down over the last 2 laps as they come across the line to start the penultimate lap, and battle is well and truly on. Casey O'Gorman wants that victory.
Yeah, you can tell Casey O'Gorman really wants this. He's pushing really hard to stay onto the back wheel of Charlie Nesbitt, but where will we see him make a move? We saw yesterday Casey O'Gorman in the GP70 class stayed behind Johnny Garnett, studied him, and then finally made a nice clean move into the second chicane on this circuit. So will we see a similar thing in this race? We know how hard Charlie likes to fight. We've seen how hard he's fought with Brad Ray, so it's definitely going to be a tough win for Casey O'Gorman, but definitely not out of an option.
No, absolutely not, as Charlie Nesbitt comes across the line to start the last lap of the first race of the week, first race of round 2 for the Extreme 200s. Casey O'Gorman chasing him down. Behind we've got Harvey Claridge and Harrison Crosby battling out over the final position on the podium. Harvey holding on to 3rd, currently Harrison Crosby wanting to pick up that 3rd place finish, but it is going to be Charlie Nesbitt down the back straight. He's got a bit of a gap between himself and Casey, so it's going to have to be a late break for Casey if he's to close in on Charlie, but it's going to be Charlie Nesbitt across the line that takes the win in the Extreme 200s. Casey O'Gorman in 2nd, back in 3rd place. Across the line is going to be mighty close between several drivers, and across the line does come it's Harrison Crosby in fact gets it on the last lap ahead of Harvey Claridge. So disaster for Harvey, drops off the podium. He drops back to 4th. Bailey Stewart Campbell in 5th. Tom Whedon in 6th. Ryan Hitchcock is currently circulating in 7th, comes across the line, and it should be Ryan Hitchcock in 7th. It is, with Jack Andrews in 8th place. Cameron Horseman, not a great race for him. He's down in 9th after starting on 3rd.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate for Cameron Horseman. I'm not sure if he had a problem or didn't quite start that race, because he was 2 laps behind there, so possibly had a problem in that one. Evan Belford also not finishing this one, and a few riders not starting this one, but Charlie Nesbitt it was then who took the win from Casey O'Gorman. We were waiting for a fight, and there it is confirmed. Charlie Nesbitt 40.6 and takes the win by 0.2 of a second over Casey O'Gorman. Harrison Crosby it was who took 3rd place ahead of Harvey Claridge. Bailey Stewart Campbell, Tom Whedon in 6th place ahead of the number 43 of Ryan Hitchcock in 7th. Andrews it was who took 8th ahead of Cameron Horseman and Evan Belford.
Yep, great race there between Charlie Nesbitt and Casey O'Gorman. Charlie just able to hold on to that one. Casey not able to close in. The gap between the pair across the line was 0.2 of a second, so it shows how close it is. But yeah, Charlie Nesbitt, best lap of 40.6. It was actually beaten by 40.5 for Casey O'Gorman. So Casey O'Gorman sets the fastest lap of the weekend. We're now on to the final race of the first series of races. It is the MK GP70s, and they will be making their way out on circuit.
Yeah, and it's going to be a quick swap of bikes for Casey O'Gorman, as we just saw him take 2nd place in that race, and now he's going to be having a go at the MKGP 70 class. We saw him yesterday do very well to battle with Johnny Garness. Johnny Garness it was who took the win. 2 wins yesterday, but it was Casey O'Gorman who took the final win after coming together between the two at the final corner in race 2. So it'll be interesting to see what Casey O'Gorman can do now that he's higher up on the grid. He was starting from the back of the grid yesterday, had to climb his way up through, still managed to get a win in that final race and a second in race 1. So now he's right alongside Johnny Garness. What can we expect to see from Casey O'Gorman?
Yeah, well, of course, he's just come off of the bike from the Extreme 200, so he was pushing hard to close in on Charlie Nesbitt, so possibly a little bit of early fatigue for Casey O'Gorman, so that might work in the favour of Johnny Garness. But of course, Johnny did a masterful job yesterday to take 2 very good victories. Unfortunately, couldn't pick up the 3rd with Casey O'Gorman overtaking him late on in the race. But Johnny Garness will be pretty happy with his Saturday's work and leads the championship by 18 points to Lucas Brown, who's in 2nd place. So Johnny Garness on 70 points, Lucas Brown on 52. Then back is Casey O'Gorman on 45, Josh Bannister on 40. So it's a strong start to the season for Johnny Garness, and I'm sure he would have gone to bed last night pretty happy with how his Saturday turned out.
Oh, absolutely. 2 wins in a second. He can't be complaining with that. He's leading the championship. And another thing he's got to remember, the man who took points off him in that final race won't be sticking around for the full season this year. So Johnny Garness in a very good position, leading the championship over Lucas Brown at the moment. Lucas Brown, another rider we saw take a couple of podiums yesterday, did very well. Third spot on the grid at the moment. He lines up just beside Josh Bannister. Josh, who had some technical issues yesterday, so it'll be interesting to see what Lucas Brown and Josh Bannister can do today. Will they have the pace to go with Johnny Garness and Casey O'Gorman? It's a tall order because those guys are on some really good form at the moment, but still podiums are definitely an option for those 2 riders.
Yep, Lucas Brown lining up in 3rd, but however it's going to be Johnny Garness on the pole for this one, with Casey O'Gorman alongside him in 2nd, Lucas Brown in 3rd with Josh Bannister in 4th, Mason Foster in 5th place with Ben Jolliffe in 6th, Clayton Edmonds on row 4 in 7th place with Harrison McKay in 8th, Jacob Stevenson on row 5 with Holly Harris in 10th place, and rounding out row 6 will be Greg Marshall and Felix Dorling in 11th and 12th position. However, look to the front for that battle between Johnny Garness and Casey O'Gorman, which has been a lot of fun over the first round of the season yesterday. And Lucas Brown needs to start closing in. He was averaging around about 0.3 of a second slower a lap than Johnny Garness yesterday. So if he's to close in on Johnny Garness for this championship, he's going to need to start making up a little bit of lap time and taking the fight to the number 57 rider.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that will be hurting his championship a little bit is Casey O'Gorman taking 2nd place, and so that will promoted Lucas Brown down to 3rd yesterday. So that will be extending Johnny Garness's lead even more. With, of course, Casey not staying for the full season, but Casey doing a brilliant job especially yesterday from the back of the grid, to come through to take a 2nd and a win yesterday. So it's going to be all about the battle at the front between those 2, and it'll be brilliant to see the likes of Lucas Brown, Josh Bannister, and maybe even Mason Foster, who we've seen very strong in the GP50s, to try and get up onto the podium and try and stick with the pace that Johnny Garness and Casey O'Gorman are able to put down.
Yeah, mate. Mason Foster and Josh Bannister were both closing in on Lucas Brown in the races yesterday, so those 3 will be battling, I'm sure, over the final podium position if they can't stay with Johnny Garness and Casey O'Gorman as all the riders come into position, getting ready to start the final of the first set of races for today's session, and it's going to be the MK GP70s. They all look to the lights, getting ready to go. Casey O'Gorman versus Johnny Garness, and it's Casey O'Gorman into the lead straight off the line. Johnny Garness filters into 2nd, and it was an absolute rocket start there for Casey O'Gorman straight off the line, and has a decent gap already as we get into the back end of the first part of the race.
Yeah, Johnny Garness there just struggled with that start. Unfortunately dropped back to 3rd place, just behind Lucas Brown, and that's giving now the opportunity for Casey O'Gorman to run away with this one. And we've seen how fast Casey O'Gorman can be. He absolutely flew through the field yesterday, so I think it's going to be a tall order for anyone to go catch him now, but if anyone can do it, it will be Johnny Garness. But first things first, he needs to get past the number 29 of Lucas Brown, as Casey O'Gorman is just stretching that lead massively, even with one lap down.
Yeah, superb launch off the line there for Casey O'Gorman, and unfortunately for Johnny Garness, not quite the same. Looks to the inside, there's almost contact between the two, elbows out, and keeps it clean, up, moves up. So Johnny Garness now moving up past Lucas Brown into second place. So good move there from Johnny Garness. He can now start to push. He's 1.4 seconds behind Casey O'Gorman, but now he's got to put the effort in, because we know how fast Casey can be. But Johnny Garness just needs to stay ahead of Lucas Brown, because obviously, as we were talking about yesterday, he's looking at points for this championship. Yeah,
slight mistake there in the final corner for Johnny Garness, which allowed Lucas Brown through, and Lucas needed no second invitation there. He saw the door open and took his opportunity to regain second place, and all the meanwhile Casey O'Gorman is extending his lead at the front. Looking back there at Josh Bannister with the British Talent Cup leathers, the number 2, he's just behind Mason Foster and the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds, so he'll be looking to try and weave through the pack a little bit. At the moment he's dropped down to 8th place from 4th on the grid, but a good ride at the moment from the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds and the number 61 of Harrison McKay in 4th spot. Mason Foster now in 6th place as well, so brilliant battle going on between all these riders. Johnny Garness now has found his way back around Lucas Brown and back into second place. So now this battle for second heating up quite a bit. The lead at the front now, 3.4 seconds across the line last time. The only man in the 41s is currently Casey O'Gorman, so I don't think anyone's going to be able to go and catch Casey in this one.
No, absolutely not. He's looking on fire, the 172 machine leading this one. Great battle with Clayton Edmonds, the number 146, with Mason Foster, Josh Bannister and Ben Johnniff all within 0.6 of a second of each other as they come across the line. So Clayton Edmonds a little bit of a cork in the bottom. Mason Foster trying to put the pressure on, but he's got to watch out behind him, because Josh Bannister and Ben Johnniff are trying to close in, and the quartet all fighting over a top 5 position ahead. Harrison McKay's got a little bit of a gap between himself and Clayton Edmonds, but Casey O'Gorman, as you say, really starting to stretch that lead now, as Johnny Garness does dip into the 41, so 41.8 on his last lap there for Johnny Garness, so starting to get back on the pace, but he's already lost 4 seconds to Casey O'Gorman, battling with Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown 0.7 of a second back from Johnny Garness, so it's much more positive from Lucas. He needs to stay with Johnny Garness and start taking points off of him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the next step for Lucas. We know he can get on the podium, but if he can try and bring his pace down a little bit more, he's running a good pace, exactly the same lap time as Garness on that last lap, so very possibly he could stick with Johnny Garness if he really gets the hammer down. But a battle that's we're watching on screen at the moment is between Mason Foster and the number 61 of Harrison McKay. Is really hotting up now. We've just seen these guys swapping positions, really enjoying their racing. The number 88 there, you can just see right on the back wheel of Harrison McKay at the moment in this battle for 4th spot. Just behind them, the battle for 6th between Clayton Edmonds and Josh Bannister, also really enthralling at the moment. So yeah, brilliant battles all through this field, Gareth. But at the moment, no one can stop Casey O'Gorman. 41.5 on that last lap, 4.8 seconds, 6 laps to go. Tall order for anyone to go and catch him. So it's all about Johnny Garness, and that's Josh Bannister down now. So that's Josh Bannister who's taken down Ben Jolliffe with him. So that's very unlucky weekend for Josh Bannister at the moment, the number 2. He gets up, looks a little bit winded, but up and okay nonetheless. Looks like we have a red flag now as Casey O'Gorman is slowing down. We can see on track the 2 bikes are being wheeled away. Johnny Garness looking a little bit frustrated with himself, but yeah, very unlucky scenes for Josh Bannister at the moment. So red flag as these guys come in. We're going to have to try and get this race restarted, but Let's just talk about the pace of Casey O'Gorman at the moment, Gareth. He's absolutely in another level. We know he's already been in the championship. He's already won the GP70s. We already know he's fast, but it's just impressive to see how consistently he can do it.
Yeah, it seems whatever machine Casey sits on, he can take it up to its optimum. And as you say, lightning off the start, swept around the outside of Johnny Garnes, who had a slow start, and up into
that's another
the lead.
bike down there. That's one of the Rapid Fulfillment liveried bikes down. I know that is Josh Bannister. That's Josh Bannister's bike down there. You see him with the British Talent Cup leathers. So good to see that both riders are now up and okay, but obviously a very unfortunate end to both of their races there. Josh Bannister just crashing out of that one, and unfortunately leaving Ben Jolliffe nowhere to go, and unfortunately going down as well.
Yep, frustration for Ben Jolliffe, who was in a good position to start pushing for some decent points there, and as you say, just nowhere to go. Unfortunately, that mistake from Josh Bannister just collected him, and unfortunately it's an early end. We're halfway through the race, and we will hopefully get it restarted. We will find out very shortly, but it was Casey O'Gorman that was absolutely blitzing the field there. And yeah, so you are watching, if you've just joined us, you are watching the MKGP 70s, and thank you everyone for joining us, whether you're in the paddock, of course, watching on the stands and on the sidelines, or of course if you're watching at home on the live streams, which of course can be fab-racing.co.uk, and of course on their YouTube and Facebook channels, and that's Fab Racing. And yeah, let us know who you're supporting over the day, whether it be anyone from all of the classes, whether it be the Extreme 200s, the MKGP 50s or 70s, of course the AC rookies and the AC40 rookies pro and the LC40 elites, and of course several of the other classes that we'll be running through today. So always good to hear from you guys, and of course if you're enjoying the coverage, make sure you share it and retweet all the good stuff that we like to see on the socials. And it is always good to hear from you guys and find out who you're supporting. And of course my name is Gareth Hall, and joined for the entirety of this season by Tristan Finocchiaro, and we will be covering what has already been a bumper weekend. Round 1 yesterday on Saturday was 24 races long. Round 2 today, equally the same. So a lot of racing here at Lydd. So I'm sure for some of these riders that have had maybe not a weekend they wanted to remember, I'm sure they'll be happy to see the back of Lydd.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've crammed a lot of racing into just 2 days. Essentially 2 rounds this weekend. We had round 1 yesterday, 3 races for each class, and a lot of these riders running in several classes. So some of these riders having 6 races today and yesterday. So that is confirmed, and that will be your race result as we are over half race distance. It will be Casey O'Gorman who takes the win. You can see confirmed there. Fastest lap of the race as well went to him. Johnny Garnes then takes second place. Seemed a little bit frustrated with that, but I think in hindsight he should be happy. It's good points on the board for his championship. Lucas Brown then in third ahead of Mason Foster, Harrison McKay and Clayton Edmonds in 6th. Marshall it was that took 7th ahead of Harris, Stevenson and Dorling, rounding out your top 10.
Yep, great race there from Casey O'Gorman. But as you say, Johnny Garnes, although showing signs of frustration, it's very much where he needed to be. If he wasn't going to pick up the victory, second place is always the best place to be. He finishes ahead of Lucas Brown, who stays in third, or he's current second in the championship. But yeah, Lucas Brown... Damage control, third place, another podium. So Lucas is, although he may have lost the position to Johnny Garnes, he's got to be happy with picking up another podium, keeping himself in that title hunt. Absolutely,
I think Lucas should be really proud of that ride. I mean, it was a good podium. Rider's always going to be happy with the podium. I'm sure he wants more and he'll want to take the win. But I see this race as a step closer for Lucas to getting up on that top step. He really he stuck it to Johnny where he could. We know how fast Johnny is and how consistent Johnny is, but Lucas did a really good job to try and fight back at him, and even matched his pace at times. So a step in the right direction for Lucas, and I think he should be really proud of that ride.
Yeah, absolutely. So he stays in the championship hunt behind Johnny Garnes, who extends his lead at the front. Next up, we've got the second race of the day for the AC40 Pro class, and it's been a very, very strong weekend for a number of drivers. Joshua Williams and Ethan Sparks have equally had very, very good weekends. And watch out for Archie O'Brien. Equally, he's picked up a couple of podiums, and the likes of Archie Gibbs and Marco Holt behind will be looking to push to pick up some more points to push their championship. Josh Williams and Ethan Sparks seem to be doing pretty nicely for themselves out the front. Of course, it's Ethan Sparks that was leading overnight. Josh Williams, of course, taking some points off him in race 1, but it's going to be a close battle, it seems, between the pair of them.
The battle at the championship, the tops are really heating up between these guys. Ethan Sparks absolutely dominant yesterday, taking 3 race wins, but Joshua Williams picked up a few seconds yesterday and was able to take a win earlier on today. So it'll be interesting to see what Ethan Sparks can do in this second race. He's starting from second position. Josh Williams, your race 1 winner, will be starting from pole. So the battle between these two guys will be really interesting to see. We also saw a brilliant battle between Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs earlier on. So them 3rd and 4th on the grid. Be interesting to see which Archie can get the better of each other in this one. Number 58 then, Marco Holt. He lines up 5th place on the grid ahead of Wilson Dilks. Luke Fitchett, the number 7, in 7th place with the red leathers and black helmet. Number 42, Thorley Trevorrow, he's 8th place on the grid ahead of Harry Payne and Bill Harris, the number 14, rounding out your top 10. Casey Sperry, the number 20, he's 11th ahead of Keaton Payne, Noah Guidry, Bailey Lawrence and the number 111 of Callum Maxwell. It seems like we have a rider starting from pit lane. That's the number 7 of that is Luke Fitchett. So Luke Fitchett will not line up in 7th spot on the grid. You can just see the number 7 on the exhaust pipe there. He's coming round to start, so he will complete his formation lap and line up on the back of this grid. Hopefully they will let him line up on 7th spot. A difficult start for Luke Fitchett. Probably a little bit worried that he would have had to have started from pit lane, but he's going to have to put that out of his mind now, join the grid and be ready to start this race.
Absolutely. So I'm sure Luke, who had a pretty good day yesterday, will be looking at once again pushing himself up towards that top 3 positions that he managed to pick up. I believe he picked up a podium yesterday, so semi-good day for Luke, and I'm sure the lad in the red leathers will be pushing on. And of course the AC40 Pro Class will be all the guys on the Minimotos will be using this altered track layout, which has the infield section with the double hairpin, and of course the fast left right-hander. So it's slightly altered, and it makes it a lot more exciting to see these guys send it up the inside into the hairpin section. So watch out for some overtakes there. We saw plenty done in race 1, and I'd just like to say Marco Holt has possibly one of the best helmets in the paddock this weekend. Absolutely loving the crash helmet there for the number 58, and he's lining up in 5th, but it is Joshua Williams on the pole with Ethan Sparks in 2nd, and we are getting ready to go green to start race 2 of the day for the AC40 Pro Class, and it's going to be Josh Williams and Ethan Sparks looking up to the lights. Watch out for Archie O'Brien, fast starter in 3rd, and the guys will be heading off very, very shortly. And we see Joshua Williams in the black Lydd will be looking at picking up another good result this morning, and we will set off for the AC40 Pro Class race 2 for them. And Ethan Sparks, I'm sure, will be looking at making up for possibly not finishing on the top step in race 1, and adding to his 3 race wins that he picked up yesterday for round 1.
Looking like some more complications for Luke Fitchett. I think he's going to have to start from the back of the grid, so because he was late to the grid, he's going to have to start from the back. So watch out for Luke Fitchett making his way up through the field. All eyes to the flag at the moment, and brilliant start. You can see Luke Fitchett on the inside trying to make up positions as quickly as he can, but it's Ethan Sparks that has the lead. Then Josh Williams moved back into 2nd position there. We can see Archie Gibbs in 3rd place ahead of Archie O'Brien. So a nice clean start for all these guys, and Ethan Sparks will be delighted to see some clear space in front of him.
Yeah, Ethan Sparks, brilliant start off the line, much like Casey O'Gorman in the last race, sweeping around the outside into turn 1 and turn 2, past the pole man Joshua Williams. So Josh, a little bit of work to do to close in on Ethan. Ethan's got a little bit of a gap as they come into the hairpin section in the infield, but it is going to be Ethan Sparks most likely leading us around the first lap. Behind you can see Joshua Williams and then the two Archies, Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs, closing in. But yeah, it's been a good start there for Ethan Sparks. The man in the black and orange leathers is going to come across the line, and in fact Joshua Williams starting to close in on him, and a little bit of a top 5 breakaway there with Marco Holt in 5th place.
Yeah, definitely not a lot of breathing space for these top 4 riders. Brilliant job from Marco Holt, the number 58, to find his way into 4th spot. Like you were saying, nice helmet for Marco Holt, and I'm quite fond of the number as well. 58's a good number. Marco number 58, you'd like to think that his racing hero was the late Marco Simoncelli. Haven't got that confirmed, but by deduction, I'm pretty sure that that's probably the case. Ethan Sparks at the front then, the number 62, coming under a little bit of pressure here at the hairpin by Joshua Williams. We've said all weekend how strong Joshua is through there, but not quite able to make it through on this lap. Plenty of laps to go for Josh to have a go at Ethan, and he'll do well to just have a few laps behind him, settle into this race, but also be wary of Archie just behind him.
Yeah, Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs not being dropped by the leading pair, so Ethan Sparks is still holding on to this lead, but Joshua Williams, as we saw into the infield section, was putting the pressure on, goes a little bit wider on the exit at turn 5. That might open the door for Archie O'Brien, who's currently in 3rd place, to close in on him, but Archie Gibbs equally in 4th place is staying with it, so all is to play for. But you see Joshua Williams get a really good run on Ethan Sparks as they come to the double right-hander at turn 9 and turn 10, and it's all going to be about who can get the late break in towards the hairpin, and you can see almost up the inside there was Archie O'Brien. Had a thought about sending it against Josh Williams, backed out of it at the last minute, and in fact that's allowed Archie Gibbs to close in on Archie O'Brien for 3rd. But Ethan Sparks doing a good job at the moment to defend from 3 drivers, all looking at picking up victories.
Absolutely brilliant stuff here. 4-rider battle for the lead, exactly what we want to see. Really good to see Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs able to keep with the pace of Ethan Sparks and Josh Williams in this race. Any of these riders could win this race, but it's Ethan Sparks that's holding the lead quite comfortably at the moment. He looks nice and comfortable, covering his lines. I'm pretty sure he can hear Josh Williams right on his back tail, but he's doing really well to cover his lines and make sure there's no way through for Josh Williams.
You're watching the FAB-Racing 2020 Minibike British Championships. This is the 2nd race of the day for the AC40 Pro Class air-cooled 40cc engines, and riders upwards of 6 years old part of this class, and you can see very, very competitive. We've got a top 4 breakaway. Marco Holt unfortunately has dropped down a little bit. He's 3 seconds behind, but he's in clear air in 5th, so Marco holding on to a solid 5th place. We've got a little bit of lap traffic that's been negotiated and passed there by the top 4, and
seeing a bit of a breakaway now. The top 2 seem to have broken away a little bit from the 2 Archies, so hopefully Archie O'Brien will be able to claw that back in, and we can see a nice 4-rider scrap for the lead. But I'm sure Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs will be more than content battling for 3rd place. But every rider, of course, Gareth, wants the win, and every rider wants to beat 40 Pros class. They've come through the AC40 rookies. They've proven to FAB-Racing that they have what it takes to race in this Pro class. And you can see Ethan Sparks going very defensive there. Josh Williams taking that nice wide line, as we've been commenting on all weekend. But Ethan Sparks doing a good job of covering his line and making sure there's absolutely no way through for Joshua Williams at the moment. Ethan Sparks then it is that leads another lap. Been absolutely faultless so far this race has Ethan Sparks, covering his lines like we've been saying, and making sure there's no way through. Joshua Williams, though, you have to think it's only a matter of time before Joshua Williams has a go at taking the lead. Archie O'Brien then looking as if he's closing back in on these guys, something we're going to have to keep an eye on Archie Gibbs also in there, looking a little bit of breathing space at the moment, does Joshua Williams over Archie Gibbs, but anything can change, especially as they start coming up to some back markers in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Ethan Sparks also taking part in the MKGP 50 class, so a lot of riding for Ethan this weekend, and he's doing a great job at the moment holding off a very fast Joshua Williams, and Josh not letting the pressure off of Ethan, making him work for it if he's to pick up a 4th victory of the weekend here at Lydd. And he's pushing hard. The laps are counting down. We're coming on to 3 laps left to go here in this race, and in fact Archie O'Brien is now starting to close in, and he's doing a pretty good job picking up the fastest lap of the race, a 55.8 there for Archie O'Brien. So Archie O'Brien looking at picking up second, perhaps even first, if these two can perhaps hold each other up a little bit. But Archie O'Brien doing a really good job in the late stages of this one.
Yeah, it's all hutting up here at the front with 2.5 laps to go. It could be a 3-rider battle for the lead. Archie Gibbs just dropped off the back of this group now and just looked like he was going wide through that section, but now it's all about these guys at the front as they go into the infield again. Ethan Sparks going very defensive into the infield section. Archie O'Brien doing really well to stay with these guys, not only stay with these guys but catch these guys after they had a little bit of breathing space. Just seeing on the screen there the number 7 Luke Fitcher, a quick check on Luke Fitcher. He started from the back on the grid, and the number 7 has made his way back up to 7th place where he was originally meant to start from the on the grid. Looks like a bit of a tall order to get up to Wilson Dilks in 6th, but a tremendous ride from Luke Fitchett to come up through the grid there. But it's all about the battle at the front at the moment. Ethan Sparks, Joshua Williams, Archie O'Brien still not quite on the back of these guys, dropping off a little bit more on this past lap. But 1.5 laps to go for these guys, and Joshua Williams is looking very menacing and looking like he could be making a move on Ethan Sparks at any point. Ethan Sparks again going really defensive. Joshua Williams going really wide, trying to get the drive, but not quite able to duck underneath him on the second hairpin.
Yeah, so you can see there that both riders using 2 completely separate lines. Of course, Joshua Williams perhaps thinking of getting a tighter apex by taking a wider line in and getting the run out. So yeah, it's great sort of like thought during the race as we're on to the last lap for Joshua Williams to try all he can to really put his bike in all different positions, as there's some lap traffic coming up ahead, and that's not what Ethan Sparks wants at all, and he's going to need to try and clear it as soon as possible. So he gets up the inside. In fact, there we go, just about the top 2 managing to clear it. We're coming into the final stages of this one. It's split by 0.2 of a second. It's Ethan Sparks holding on to the lead that he's taken since the start. Joshua Williams is pushing so hard to keep onto it. Let's see the different lines between these two. Defensive from Ethan Sparks. Joshua Williams takes, once again, that's wider line, but tight. You can see Ethan Sparks covering off both inside corners. He's going to make Joshua Williams have to make a late move into the final corner if he can get close enough, but it's not going to be enough. And in fact, down goes
he's down. Josh Williams is down. He's out of second place, so that's Archie O'Brien that's going to take second place. Really unfortunate for Joshua Williams. He was second place in the championship and unfortunately has gone down trying absolutely everything to take that win. You cannot knock him for trying. He was absolutely trying to take that win, but it is Ethan Sparks who absolutely flawless and a little bit frustrated with his bike there. A little quick kick to the bike, but back on, needs to cross the line to get some points there. He needs to think about the championship as well. It's easy. It's quite easy to get very frustrated with what's just happened, but he needs to be able to pick up those points. He gave it absolutely everything he had, Gareth, and really unfortunate end to the race.
Yeah, I mean that typifies a racer. He's pushing until the very last, just one tiny mistake, and he comes across there. You can see just inconsolable, so frustrated with himself. He knows that he's just thrown away a podium position there, and commiserations to Joshua Williams, who'd ridden so well in that one, and was just pushing hard. Second place was in his grasp, and just the slightest of mistakes in the final corner. Ethan Sparks, congratulations goes out. Here's a 4th race win of the weekend for Ethan. But yeah, but I'm sure out of all of that, and Joshua Williams came home in 10th, but yeah, it is Ethan Sparks. You could see Archie O'Brien delighted, arms up in the air as he came across the line, comes home in 2nd. Archie Gibbs gets a podium place in 3rd. Marco Holt promoted up to 4th with Wilson Dilks in 5th. Luke Fitchett does manage to make his way up to 6th place with Harry Payne in 7th, Bill Harris in 8th, Thori Trevorrow in 9th, and unfortunately Joshua Williams dropping all the way down to 10th position as he walked the bike across the line. You could see just how frustrated he is, and it means so much to these riders to just the smallest of mistakes and cost him a whole heap of positions. Absolutely,
and that one crash will have taught him so much as well. He was pushing so hard to try and get that win, and perhaps in the future he will have learnt now to perhaps sometimes taking second place is the better option, getting some points on the board, because now Ethan Sparks will have extended his championship lead quite a bit in this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's absolute disaster for Josh Williams there when it comes to for the championship push, because obviously Ethan Sparks picking up the full complement of points. However, big congratulations goes out to Archie Gibbs and Archie O'Brien for their podiums today, and you could see it was Archie O'Brien that was delighted as he came across the line, seeing the unfortunate Josh Williams on the sideline. So
well, we've just seen the AC40 pros then, and now we're moving back to the AC40 rookies. All the AC40 pros will have come through the AC40 rookies championship, and one familiar face that will be watching this championship will be BSB rider Tommy Bridewell. His nephew Freddie Bridewell was lining up on this grid for his first race weekend of this season ever. So we saw some good results from him yesterday, and definitely one to watch for the future. Leading this championship though, Finley Polehill. He lines up on pole position. You see there with the bright orange bike and the white helmet. He's your pole man for this race. Austin Johnson we saw take some tremendous wins yesterday. He lines up in second place ahead of Harrison Day, who's on the second row of the grid in third spot, and Byron Johnson in fourth. Freddie Bridewell, who we were just talking about, is fifth on the grid ahead of Oliver Hall and Lewis Hull in the seventh place. Travis Shaw on the eighth spot of the grid ahead of Ollie O'Gorman, brother of Casey O'Gorman, who we saw earlier on today, ahead of the number 101 of Chloe Sewell, and Zach Penegar rounding out the grid. All eyes to the lights then, and they're away. Brilliant start from Finley Polehill, your pole man, and Austin Johnson just slots into second place. Nice clean getaway for all of these riders. So brilliant stuff from all of these guys. All these guys in their first season of racing, and they'll have completed their first round yesterday and into their second round of racing today. All these guys will be looking to move up to the AC40 Pros when they are deemed good enough. All these bikes, Blatter 40cc engines, they all have to run the same Blatter engine with a restrictor plate fitted to the exhaust to keep everything fair and keep these bikes under a controllable speed for these new riders. Yeah, absolutely so. But it's Finley Polehill that leads away. Austin Johnson closing in very, very early on. We saw Austin Johnson take a couple of commanding victories. In fact, takes the lead, gets a much better drive through the second hairpin. So up into the lead of this one goes Austin Johnson. And I wonder if Finley Polehill's just struggling a little bit there, because he seemed quite wide out of that hairpin, and that's what let Austin Johnson through. And now he's dropping back quite a bit, and we know that Finley Polehill definitely has the pace, but like we've said before, Austin Johnson does seem to have some superior pace on this grid. Yep, so it is Austin Johnson across the line. Finley Polehill, as you say, possibly a little bit slow out of that last part of the lap. He's dropped to second. Freddie Bridewell finds himself in third place. Byron Johnson, who's finished on the podium a couple of times, in fourth. Harrison Day, that's the name you might have heard of before, in fifth place. Oliver Hall back in sixth. Travis Shaw in seventh. Lewis Hull in eighth. Ollie O'Gorman back in ninth, and Chloe Sewell rounding out the top 10. Yeah, brilliant clean riding for all these riders. We're just looking at the white bike of Freddie Bridewell at the moment, currently in third position. He has picked up a podium earlier on in this race, but he's looking to try and find another one now. Johnson is then, who's leading across the line, extends his... Actually, no, Finley Polehill does seem to be slightly closer on this. It was 0.7 last time, and it's 0.6 now, so any problems Finley Polehill was having in that first lap, he's recovering from now and hunting down Austin Johnson. The top three all in the 102s. Freddie Bridewell now dropping down to 4th place with a 103 flat. So some quite close racing at the front of this race, especially considering a lot of these guys are absolutely completely new to the sport.
Yeah, absolutely so. And Byron Johnson with the fastest lap of the race there, 102.7, 0.2 of a second faster than Austin Johnson leading. So Byron Johnson on the push to close in on Finley Polehill and Austin Johnson. Of course, Byron dropping down a little bit further after the start, but you can see the battles are still going on. I believe that's a change for second place there, with Byron Johnson moving up past Finley Polehill. So we've now got the two Johnsons leading and in first and second, but it is still Austin that will be coming around, and we'll see what the fastest laps are, because it looks as though Byron is enjoying this second race so far. Across the line, it is Byron Johnson, in fact, smashing the time, a 101.4. He's a second faster than anyone else on circuit at the moment.
Seems like we have a rider who stopped at the final corner. Rider okay, just a technical problem for that rider, so that's another lesson learnt for that rider. Unfortunately, this is something that riders are going to have to come up and face right through their career. So he's just learning the frustration of that unfortunate scenario at the moment. But it's the two Johnsons out front at the moment. Finley Polehill dropping back slightly in 3rd place. You can see there on the bright orange bike, and almost a change for the lead there. As the Johnsons nearly swapped positions there. Byron looking really menacing. He came out don't know what he's had for breakfast, Gareth, but he looked really menacing in this in the first race earlier on today, and that's the rider rejoining the race there. But it's all about these two at the front at the moment. The two Johnsons battling it out at the front. They've got a hefty lead now over Finley Polehill, now down into the 101s. Both almost identical times there for the two Johnsons. 101.704 for Austin and 101.705 for Byron. So these two very equally matched at the moment. So will be very intriguing to see which Johnson could come out on top at the end of this race. Austin Johnson it is, who took 2 race wins yesterday and will be looking to make that a 3rd today.
Yeah, Byron Johnson doing the lovely the double lap, one on the inside, one on the outside, and I'm sure the lap rider was not paying attention, not really hoping to see that happen. But down the inside and into the race lead goes Byron Johnson. Austin's going to try and come back at him, but it's you can see Byron takes the tighter line and gets a good run out of the second hairpin in the infield and up into the lead of this one. So it's been a great race so far for Byron Johnson. Now takes the lead with as we come up to 3 laps left to go. They've completely dropped Finley Polehill, and we've got Byron Johnson and Austin Johnson battling over the lead of this one. But it's Byron Johnson that just does the fastest lap of the race, of 101.351, so half a second faster than Austin Johnson. They are currently 2 seconds a lap faster than anyone else on circuit.
Yeah, really impressive stuff from the two Johnsons, with about 2.5 laps to go of this race. Absolutely fighting it out at the front. Byron absolutely has definitely slept well, because he's come out of the gates this morning and he's performing brilliantly today. We saw he was strong yesterday, but today he's really come into his own as they make their way through one of the back miles. That's Chloe Sewell that they just make their way through there. Nice and cleanly done. Chloe also doing a brilliant job there, down in 8th place on the number 101. A little bit of a gap is emerging now as the riders make their way through lap traffic. Byron Johnson just edging out a gap now as we go on to start the penultimate lap of this AC40 Rookies race, the second race of the day for these guys.
And Byron Johnson, the only rider to be consistently in the 101s for the entirety of this one. So, yeah, really enjoying this race so far. And he'll be looking for... Who's that? Is that Austin Johnson?
That's one of the Johnsons down. Can't make out which one that is. Just being helped there by one of the marshals there. And he's back into this race. Both Johnsons look too similar. Can't tell which one's which.
I think that's Austin Johnson.
That's Byron Johnson in the lead then. So very unfortunate stuff. He's managed to rejoin, hopefully in a decent position for him, with 1.5 laps to go of this race. There is then the number 37 leading this one. Byron Johnson currently leading this one, I think. Yeah,
Byron Johnson is coming around the final corner to start his last lap of the race. He sees the yellow flag with the black cross in it. and he can just control this one. No threat from behind. A quick look behind to see if Austin is there, but not at all. Austin has dropped all the way down to 5th place after that. You could see how frustrated he was, just punching the air as he slipped off the circuit, straight back on the bike. But dropping down the order.
And that promotes, of course, Freddie Bridewell up into 3rd place. So that'll be a second podium for Freddie Bridewell in his first weekend of racing.
Yep, and Freddie Bridewell being followed home by Harrison Day. Those two split by 0.6 of a second. So Harrison Day not willing to give up on a potential podium, but he's going to push hard over this last lap. But it's going to be Byron Johnson that's going to take what looks like a huge win. His first of the weekend, his first of the season, and he's finished second a number of times, and he's going to come across the line very shortly and pick up his first win of the season here in the AC40 rookie class. Byron Johnson across the line with a first win on the season. Massive race from him. Absolutely blistering pace. Finley Polehill comes home in second. It's going to be close across the line between Freddie Bridewell and Harrison Day, but it is Freddie Bridewell that holds on to it by 0.3 of a second. Harrison Day in 4th. We've got Austin Johnson dropping back behind. Austin Johnson does come home in 5th place. It was Oliver Hall that was the lap down.
But good for Johnson to be able to recover and pick up some points in 5th place. That'll still be good points for the championship for him, and of course all these riders trying to rack up as many points as they can to reach the amount of points they need to reach to be able to move up into the AC40 Pros as the next step in their careers. But a brilliant weekend of learning for all these riders, and that's your top 10 confirmed on the screen. Byron Johnson it was that took the win. Absolutely brilliant day for him so far, from Finley Polehill in 2nd place. Freddie Bridewell it was then that took 3rd place, just ahead of Harrison Day. Austin Johnson, after that crash, managed to pick up 5th spot ahead of the number 4 Travis Shaw. Ollie O'Gorman in 7th. Chloe Sewell picking up 8th on the number 101. Zach Pennegar in 9th. And Lewis Hull rounding out your top 10. Oliver Hall in 11th spot on the number 3, rounding out the race.
Yep, fantastic race there from Byron Johnson. Just really turned it on, especially in the mid part of the race, and you could see just considerably faster than anyone else. It was only really his last lap where you can tell he just turned it down a little bit, and came home with a comfortable almost 7-second lead over Finley Polehill. Finley though picking up another decent haul of points, another podium for the rider on the fluoro orange bike, the number 199, and Freddie Bridewell, another podium for him. Unfortunately, Harrison Day not quite close enough to push for that podium, but Harrison getting much closer, and I'm sure we'll see in race 3 him take the fight for the podium positions. Austin Johnson, I'm sure, will have a point to prove in race 3 this afternoon. You could see just how frustrated he was as he came off momentarily, just punching the air, so frustrated, but it immediately switched back on the bike and back into 5th position. So damage limitation, Austin Johnson back in 5th place.
Yeah, every rider needs that slight moment of venting out your frustration after a crash or after something goes wrong. I know I've done it myself. I know many riders do it all the time, but then it's then important, like Austin Johnson did, to get straight back on and finish in a good position like he did. Next up then, we've just seen the juniors on the Minimoto machines, but now it's the liquid-cooled 40cc engines, but the seniors running them this time. The last race we saw was quite an interesting one, with riders crashing all over the place, but better conditions in this one, as we did have a little bit of rain in the last race for these guys, but now better track conditions, so we should see some very close racing in this one.
Yeah, absolutely, and just looking over to the left-hand side of the circuit, there is a little bit of a cloud or heavy cloud bubbling up and starting to make its way over.
Don't speak like that, Gareth. We don't want to jinx these guys
I'm
again.
sure these riders will be trying to make the most of this dry, because you could see even Will Howarth, the pole sitter, was out by turn 5 on lap 1 last time out. So yeah, it was Bernie Hook that took the victory in race 1, even with a crash on the last lap dramatically, just holding on to it, but managing to get back on the bike. But as you say, very tricky conditions for several of the riders earlier on. Much drier conditions now, so watch to see if Will Howth can make up for that mistake. Equally, we'd expect to see a majority of these guys staying on two wheels rather than laying on their side after what was a very, very tricky race earlier on with a much greasier track surface. And once again, watch out for the likes of Matt Birkin and Josh Birkin. We've got Will Howth on the pole with Bernie Hook in second, Matt Birkin in third, Josh Birkin in fourth. And the riders all now look to the lights, getting ready to start the second race of the day for the senior mini-motos. And we're off and underway. It's a good start for Will Howth. He leads into T1 behind. It looks like Bernie Hook has held second, and that is Matt Birkin once again in third place. So all positions held in the top three.
Yeah, brilliant getaway from Will Howth. He managed to stretch a little bit of a lead as they went into the second chicane, but now heading into the hairpin at the bottom end of the circuit. It looks as if Bernie Hook is doing his best to stay and hang on to the coattails of Will Howth. Will Howth by no means has gotten away just yet, so Bernie Hook needs to do his best to stay right on the back wheel of Will Howth and try to upset his rhythm, Gareth, because we've seen how good Will is once he can get some clear space, get a rhythm down, and just start putting some consistent fast laps in. So what Bernie really needs to do now is upset the rhythm of Will Howth. Like we will see back markers come into play later on in this race, like we have done in the past races, and there has been a slight weakness for Will Howth. We've seen in these races that he just struggles to get past the back markers as quick as some of the other riders, but now we're seeing under threat now is the number 0 of Bernie Hook, under threat from Birkin just behind him now.
Yep, Birkin looking very strong once again, and we were saying earlier today that he was really lighting it up in the late stages of yesterday's round one races, and whether he could translate that into all race long pace, but he's lining up Bernie Hook down into the hairpin section, gets the move done, but Bernie Hook, and down goes Birkin.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, but Birkin's down. The bike went down, but he managed to stay on his feet. He kept running there, straight back onto the bike and rejoining this race. So we're going to see a bit of a charge from Birkin now to climb back up through this race. Bernie Hook just looks behind him. No one there anymore, I'm afraid. But now it's all about this lead that Will Howth is able to stretch out once again. He's got over a second lead now already, with a good few laps to go of this race. Still very early stages.
Yeah, I'm sure this is exactly what Will Howth was hoping for in race one, until of course that incident at T5 on the first lap put him out of the race. So yeah, much better from Will Howth. Bernie Hook trying to go with him. Matt Birkin, a bit of work to do to close back in after that slightly clumsy fall. The exit just pushed it to the limit of the grip of the bike, and unfortunately just lost the balance. And you can see him, as you say, just kind of the bike went down, and he didn't quite go with it. But tell us what it's like for these guys. Obviously a lot heavier than what we see with the younger riders on these bikes. Of course, a lot of these guys are a lot older, a lot heavier, with such a small machine. So what's it like with the weight transfer? Because it must be very tricky.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's completely different when you get bigger on these bikes. I mean, the main difference is these guys have to run the liquid cooled 40cc more powerful mini motos, because to be able to carry their weight down the straights, just because they're taller obviously than the younger riders, so they need that extra power to carry them down the straights. And one rider who's just recently turned 14 and has moved up into this category from the junior classes is Holly Harris. She's currently in 8th position. She decided to move into the seniors today as she felt she was getting a little bit too tall for the junior classes and was struggling with straight line speed. So that's exactly how your weight can affect these bikes. Obviously now they've got more weight to muscle these bikes around, and it'll be easier for them in the corners to get it turned fast. But yeah, still you'd like to be light on these little bikes.
Yeah, and you can see it's actually worked out quite nicely, because starting from 16th on the grid, she's now found herself up in 8th place. So yeah, Holly Harris with a good start, moving up almost half the grid. So, but it is Will Howth that's extending his lead at the front to 2.4 seconds behind. We've got Marco Pandolfo once again this is complete separate to what we saw yesterday. He's now up in, or I say no, just dropped down, so maybe his transponder just to switch himself on, because he had lined up on 15th, but yeah, he'd just dropped back down. So unfortunately, not the same screen I was seeing, but yeah, we've got Bernie Hook in a comfortable second, then Birkin and Whedon pretty comfortable as well. And then what have we got? We've got Nick Bennett trying to close in on Matt Birkin.
Yeah, and some brilliant battles here. There, you could just see the number 21 there of Marco Pandolfo. You could just see him there coming through, shot ahead of the number 7 of Nick Bennett. These guys are battling it out for 10th position at the moment. Yeah, that's one of the closest battles we have at the moment. You can just see on screen there Marco Pandolfo coming into the first section ahead of the number 7 with the St George's Cross on the knee sliders there for Nick Bennett.
Will Howarth just commanding this lead at the front, 3.5 seconds. He's now stretched out ahead of Bernie Hook. Of course, Bernie Hook taking the race win in race 1 today in those tricky conditions, but this time with much drier, grippier conditions, it is Will Howarth that's managed to stay on the bike, and he's really pushing hard to extend that lead and hold on to a pretty considerable gap between himself and Bernie Hook. But it is Will Howarth that unfortunately after that DNF in race 1 dropped down in the championship standings. Bernie Hook in fact took the lead after round 1, so Bernie will be pretty happy with a P2 if he can hold on to it in this one. So it's all going to be about consistency, and especially with that weather affected race in race 1, Bernie Hook I'm sure will be pretty delighted with another decent strong result.
Yeah, he took a win yesterday, he's taken a win today. Howarth yet to get a win today, but he looks on strong form to get one now. Howarth definitely the leading force in this championship at the moment. As we just look back again at the battle between Birkin and Bennett. Birkin making his way back up through the field after the crash early on in the race we saw today. So Birkin now up into 6th place ahead of the number 7 in 7th place of Bennett.
Yep. Birkin working hard. Matt Birkin, after he had that fall at the first hairpin earlier in the race when he was challenging for 2nd place, chasing down the 21 Adam Ambrose, and Adam, he's had a couple of good results in top 5, so he'll be looking at pushing on. He's currently in 4th place, I believe it is at the moment, so we'll see across the line. It's a good run, in fact, for Matt Birkin. He sweeps up ahead and up and takes the position. So yeah, back on the bit of a warpath after that early mistake and making up the position. So yeah, once again, like we've seen in a couple of races so far today, damage limitation for some of these riders that have gone down. Yeah, and again, like we've seen in these senior Minimoto races, Birkin just able to really put down some pace right at the end of the race. He's got such good late race pace, and we knew that he'd be charging through the field, and late in this race he's really putting the hammer down and try and make his way up through the field. Damage limitation, as you say, trying to score as many points as he can in the early stages of this season. Yeah, absolutely so. But it is Will Howarth leading at the front of this one, and they come up to the last lap, and it's going to be Will Howarth leading from Bernie Hook in 2nd, Josh Birkin in 3rd, with Matt Birkin I believe in 4th place, so good recovery. So yeah, Will Howarth, pretty controlled race from him, so I'm sure he'll be delighted after that earlier mishap in race 1.
That's Marco Pandolfo, I think it looks like, down with the red and black Dainese leathers. That is Marco Pandolfo now out of this race. So that's 2 races now that he's had to DNF in, but looks like Birkin now is coming under pressure from the 21 of Bennett, who's side by side going into the right-hander there. So yeah, that's one to look out for. Birkin coming under pressure now from Bennett.
As coming up to the line in the final part of this race. That was quick, snapping between lap traffic, but it's going to be Will Howarth that comes across the line and takes the win in race 2 of the senior Minimotos. Bernie Hook comes across the line in 2nd, and it's going to be Josh Birkin in 3rd position. Great race there from Will Howarth, much better from what we saw this morning.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. He'll be happy with that after his DNF earlier on. I can't say it was an unexpected victory. We know how sharp he is once he gets some clear air in front of him, and he was able to display that today. He's just just consolidated on his performances yesterday and just showing everyone who's boss. Bernie Hook will be happy with second place after a win earlier on today. Good points on the board for him, and the two Birkins third and fourth. Pandolfo it was that coming up on our timing screens at 6, although it looks like he's wheeling his bike back to the pit lane there. So top time is Howarth, obviously, that took the win from Bernie Hook in second place. The two Birkins third and fourth. Matt Birkin doing his best to climb up through the field after his crash in the early stages of the race. Mark Pandolfo we have down as 5th place ahead of Whedon, Bennett, Harris, Ashall and Dean, rounding out your top 10.
Yep. Will Howarth comfortably faster than anyone else in that one. 7/10 of a second he had on Bernie Hook, who had the second fastest lap. So Will Howarth really commanding that one from the front. Special mention, Holly Harris moving up from 16th to 8th at the end. So yeah, really good move there from her as she's moved up into the senior mini motos and obviously made the wise choice there to move up and yeah, picking up some good points there and making her way through the field. So yeah, but it is Will Howarth that picks up that race victory ahead of Bernie Hook. But Bernie Hook will retain his position at the top of the Senior Mini Motos Championship after that first win this morning and a second place today. So it's a good start to the season for Bernie Hook.
Absolutely, he'll be dead happy with that. Moving on from the Senior Mini Motos, we're sticking with liquid cooled 40cc engines, but this time with some slightly smaller riders. The LC40 Elites, these are the junior riders in the elite class of the junior mini moto racing scene. This is the fastest guys on mini motos in the junior scene. Their next step after this will be to get up onto geared bikes. Some of these riders already doing it, so they're heading out on circuit now to start their formation lap before they begin this race. So Josh Bannister, who's had some technical problems this weekend, he'll be starting from pole position and hopefully can change the direction of this weekend, as he's been very unlucky so far this weekend. There's a tremendous pace as seen by his pole position, but unfortunately not quite able to make the results stick for reasons not due to his own fault there.
No, absolutely not. But luck has been on the side of Ryan Hitchcock. I say luck, he's been incredibly pacey, absolutely flew away in race one. So yeah, Ryan Hitchcock the man to watch out for in this one. Very, very strong race one, as we've got, as you say, the LC40 Elite class going out on circuit. And a massive thank you and welcome to everyone in the paddock. Hopefully having a good weekend, and we can, as I said, alluded to earlier on the stream just a couple of races ago, the dark clouds are slowly making their way over. You can see really starting to engulf just over the far side of the circuit. So and
every time you say that, they seem to get a little bit closer. So if you can try and talk them away, that would be nice.
That's true. And we have got the summer breeze and sea breeze down here in Kent, also adding to that as well. So possibly after the lunch break we might have a completely different weather conditions, so watch out for that one. It's a reason to come back this afternoon and watch the third races of the day.
It looks as if, I think that's the pole man of Josh Bannister who's having some... No, Josh Bannister's fine. It looked like some issues for one of the riders there. Couldn't quite make out who that was, but Josh Bannister on pole, Ryan Hitchcock lining up just beside him. They look red and ready to go, but it looks as if we're having a bit of a delayed start here at the moment. As it looks as if, I think, the number 7 of Luke Fitchett who's having some trouble, and we're also having a rider starting from pit lane as well there. So some difficult starts to the start of this race, but they're away and raring to go. Josh Bannister drops back into second place there from pole. Ryan Hitchcock also moving back through the field as we see a change for the lead at the front.
Yep, that was Marco Holt starting from the pit lane there in the green Lydd, and he's going to make his way back towards the back of the pack. But yeah, good start there, everyone through cleanly, and you can see already a breakaway at the front there. So great start off the line, and Josh Bannister, as you say, once again, not quite there. So it's going to be a hard race, and you can already see a big gap starting to form over lap 1. So yeah, these riders possibly riding a little bit faster to try and to get the race done before the potential rain comes in.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, I'm sure they'll be trying their hardest to get the race done as quick as they can anyway. But yeah, Josh Bannister looking as if he's struggling again in the early stages of this race. Just like we saw last race, just dropping back through the field. Not sure if that's some of the technical issues that he's been dealing with this weekend. An absolute weekend riddled with technical gremlins for Josh Bannister. So really unfortunate for him. But the two guys at the front really putting the hammer down. Now you can see Ryan Hitchcock, race 1 winner, the number 43, really menacing right up onto the back wheel of our race leader now.
Yep, absolutely so. Behind we've got battles throughout the field, so yeah, it's going to be close. We're expecting the LC40 Elite class once again, like we've seen all weekend, to put on a real show for everyone watching, both here in the paddock and at home. And of course, if you're watching at home, let us know who you're supporting if you're watching someone in the LC40 Elites, and let us know, of course, going into the comments. Always good to hear from you. Of course, you could be watching on fab-racing.co.uk, Fab Racing's YouTube and Facebook channel. Of course, listen live on motorsport.radio, the world's only 24-hour-a-day dedicated motorsport radio station, from all things from 2 wheels to 4.
And that is Ryan Hitchcock now, who has taken the lead ahead of Warwick Brady. So Warwick Brady doing very well to stay in second position there and try and hatch onto the back wheel of Ryan Hitchcock. But we've seen how fast Ryan Hitchcock can be around this circuit on these little LC40 machines.
Yeah, absolutely so. But it is Ryan Hitchcock that once again has had a great start in enjoying himself out there in front, behind Warwick Brady. Once again, another strong race, Warwick Brady. He's kind of sat there in the background, not quite pushed towards the front, but picking up really consistent results, which, effectively in a championship, you just want consistency, because that gets you up towards the front, and Warwick doing a really good job of that.
Absolutely, yeah. Warwick's had a very good weekend. He should be really pleased with the way the weekend's gone before. Obviously, he's going to want better. Riders always want better, and he's trying really hard now to keep that second place and go with Ryan Hitchcock. But I think the pace of Ryan Hitchcock is just too hot for anyone to handle at the moment. Samuel Munson, you can see they're doing a really good job in third place. A little bit of a gap from between him and Josh Williams, who's fourth place, who we saw earlier on as well, doing a really good job in the AC40 Pros. So yes, a lot of familiar names in this race, and they're all doing a very good job.
Absolutely so, but it is still Ryan Hitchcock leading this one now with just over a second's lead over Warwick Brady in second, while Sam Munson, the number 72 rider, in third, who is battling to hold on to Joshua Williams. So yeah, Sam Munson trying hard to hold on to another podium position. He's another rider that's had a strong weekend, some decent points in the championship for Sam Munson, and however Joshua Williams will be pushing hard after what we saw just a couple of races ago to make up for that late mistake.
Absolutely, Josh Williams setting a really good pace, 55.9 on that last lap, so a really good pace from Josh. He'll be pushing hard to try and fight his way onto the podium, but he's going to have to find his way past Samuel Munson to be able to do that.
Samuel Munson now in second position, with Warwick Brady, in fact, dropped down to 6th according to our timing screen. So yeah, Warwick Brady now falling down the order, so maybe having stopped out on circuit somewhere. So we'll double check with that as they come around, but that would be disaster for Warwick, because I believe was running
that's just
comfortably.
A transponder problem for Warwick, because we can see him on track there. He's in second place at the moment, so perhaps some transponder issues for Warwick Brady at the moment, but he's there in second place ahead of Samuel Munson in third, and Joshua Williams fighting for that podium. He's right on the back wheel now of Samuel Munson, so possible podium in the LC40 Elites for Joshua Williams, but he has to navigate his way past the Munson burner first.
Ryan Hitchcock comfortably half a second faster than anyone else every single lap, and he's doing an absolute stellar job to hold on to the lead of this one. And if you're in the position that Ryan Hitchcock is, where he's leading, he's got a comfortable lead at the front, what is it? Is it just paying attention to making sure you hit all your braking points and making sure you hit your tight apexes and just holding on to your nerve? Because obviously we've seen riders already this week kind of have these big positions and big gaps at the front, and it be reeled in and reeled in.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Ryan, all he needs to focus on is hitting his markers and setting a good, consistent pace. Oh, and we have a crash there for Warwick Brady, so that's your second place man who's gone down. A little bit of a frustration from him, but the marshals are trying to get his bike back up and running so he can get back out into this race. He's back on the bike and will restart in this race. Yellow flags through that sector now. 3 laps to go now as Ryan Hitchcock still has the lead. Very unfortunate scenes for Warwick Brady, who's running really well in this race, but unfortunately that can happen in racing, Gareth. But now that has promoted Samuel Munson up into second place, and Joshua Williams, who we saw fighting for the win earlier on in the AC40 Pros, up into third place. Charlie Huntingford, we haven't mentioned him much, but he's looking really menacing in fourth place there, and could be a problem for Joshua Williams. So the number 76 pushing really hard and doing an excellent job in fourth place there.
Yeah, we're coming around to start 2 laps to go very shortly, and as you say, a quiet race so far for Charlie Huntingford. Actually, the rider was leading the championship overnight, so don't count him out. He's closing in on Josh Williams, so it's going to be close between the pair of them for the last step on the podium, and they're trying to close in on Samuel Munson as well. So it's all going on for the final step, well, the final 2 places in fact on the podium. However, out front it is Ryan Hitchcock now with a huge 5-second gap, and just a comfortable win. I say a comfortable win, a comfortable ride so far for Ryan Hitchcock, but looking as though he is just making his way through some lap traffic there, and really controlling this race from the front once again. And Ryan, even after starting second on the grid, is just once again got to the front and driven away and done exactly what he needed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ryan Hitchcock, you can't fault him. He's out in front, hitting his markers, doing exactly what he needs to do, and it's all the action's been happening behind him, and he hasn't had to look back at all. Charlie Huntingford there carving through the number 76 machine, so really good stuff from Huntingford to make his way through on Joshua Williams up into third place. Can you do anything about Samuel Munson in second on this final lap? They make their way through some lap traffic there as they head to the far end of the circuit, but it is still Munson who holds on to second place ahead of Charlie Huntingford, and Joshua Williams there in third place, just clinging on, just looking like he's slightly dropping back from these guys. Would be a tall order for him to get on the podium with only half a lap remaining of this race. There's your race leader there enjoying this race, although it looks like he has a problem. He's got perhaps a problem there for the number 43 of Ryan Hitchcock. He's trying to push the bike round. It looks like his engine's dead, perhaps he's run out of fuel or something there. He's trying to push the bike round the circuit to try and get to the finish line, but that's not going to work. Samuel Munson will be right through, so it's going to be Samuel Munson who's going to inherit the win of this race. Really unfortunate scenes right at the end of the race for Ryan Hitchcock. So looking at the line there, it's between Samuel Munson and Charlie Huntingford, but Samuel Munson takes the win ahead of Charlie Huntingford, and Joshua Williams does get a podium in the end. The Racecraft Riders development rider there picking up a podium in the LC40 Elite. So that's a podium in the AC40 Pros and the podium in the Elites for Williams today. Hitchcock coming up as fourth on the timing screens, but I think he's dropping back through the order. Unfortunately, he's not able to finish this race, so that's Ryan Hitchcock walking back to the pits now. We can just see from our commentary box up here, he's just walking back to the pits there. So really unfortunate for Ryan Hitchcock. He absolutely dominated the field there, rode brilliantly, but Samuel Munson was there to pick up the pieces when everything went wrong for him.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got to feel sorry for Ryan Hitchcock there. Did all he needed, and but as you say, Samuel Munson in the right place at the right time picks up the race victory ahead of Charlie Huntingford in second place. Joshua Williams on the podium in third, with Wilson Dilks up in fourth. Ryan Hitchcock is currently registered at fifth, but we'll check that. Keaton Payne in sixth. Marco Holt making his way up from the back into seventh, so good race there from Marco. Warwick Brady down in eighth. Archie Gibbs and Luke Fitchett rounding out the top 10. But Samuel Munson really proving there that just if you push until the last lap, anything can happen.
Absolutely. I mean, you need to be the key in racing is always to keep pushing, because anything can happen with the we thought Ryan Hitchcock was there, he'd won the race. We're just having a look at some of the dark ominous clouds making their way over here at Lydd. Hopefully everything can stay bone dry for these riders, although a bit of wet weather would be a bit entertaining for us. I'm sure these riders would rather it stay dry.
Yeah, absolutely so. But the riders out there that probably won't mind at all, the ones that have offered some absolute supreme entertainment, and you might hear some noise increasing around the circuit here in Lydd, and that's because it's the Pit Bike 140s and Moto Teams who are about to make their way out on circuit, and we're about to see Charlie Nesbitt, Will Howarth and Brad Ray once again engaging in battle on circuit. And the earth is vibrating under our feet as you hear the riders all revving those engines in the paddock ready to send it out on circuit. And the PB 140s, the Moto Teams, two classes that have offered some absolute superb entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, what we've seen between, we've gone on about it a lot, but what we've seen between Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray has been so entertaining. Will Howarth as well, putting his Moto Team bike in there between these guys. In terms of Moto Team, I don't think we can see anyone get onto the back wheel of Will Howarth. He's in an absolute class of his own, as he is in the senior Minimoto race that we saw earlier on today. Charlie Nesbitt took the first race win earlier on today, so a brilliant start to round 2 for Charlie. He also took 2 race wins yesterday, was beaten by Brad Ray right at the end, but returned the favour this morning.
Yeah, absolutely so. And in the Moto Team class, Will Howarth, as you say, running away with it. In the first race, it was Greg Pym that came home in second place, with Alistair Kinnaird in third. Simon Close that was second in the championship overnight, unfortunately I believe falling right down the order and not scoring a point. So Simon will be looking at making amends for that, and he will be lining up in 14th position. However, as you say, much further behind Will Howarth, who looks to have the measure of the rest of the Motor Team field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that MK GP50 bike that he is on is an extremely competitive machine in this class. You see how much faster it is than the PB140s down the straights, and it's bound to handle well with that GP styled chassis and riding position.
Yep, but it will be Charlie Nesbitt on pole position alongside Will Howarth in his Motor Team race. So we're just getting word that potentially Charlie Nesbitt, and we'll see if that changes. So Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray may be starting from the back row, so that will shake things up a bit, and that might work in favour of Will Howarth. He lines up in second with with Jamie King will be in second, then pushed up with Eddie O'Shea and Bernie Hook. Chris Wells, Taylor Lawrence, Tom Whedon and Callum Wybrow round out the top 10 here for the PB40 and Moto Team class. Their second race of the weekend here at the 2020 Minibike British Championships for FAB-Racing, and you can see at the back there Charlie and Brad looking pretty focused, and you can see Jamie King also at the back. So a lot of these riders ready to go, and it's going to be a good start hopefully for Will Howarth, who's looking to lead off Lydd, but it's a slow start for him in fact, and he's going to try to sweep into the lead back and holds on to first position. But good stuff for Will Howarth, and behind everyone filtering into position. There's a little bit of contact, there's a rider down at turn 2, and he's back on his feet, and we're still underway. A little bit of elbow to elbow contact, set one down, and we're under red flag after that contact early on. So that stops the race very quickly, but it was Will Howarth that held on to that one. Slightly slow start, but once the power was put down on that bike, he just about held onto it into the first corner as the arm goes up as he acknowledges that we are under red.
So really interesting stuff then, seeing these guys starting from the back of the grid. There was quite a few fast names starting from the back there. We could see the British Talent Cup leathers there. I think that was Cameron Horseman starting from the back of the grid with the green helmet, and obviously Charlie Nesbitt, Brad Ray, and I believe Rossi Banham starting from the back of the grid. He's another BSB rider riding in the junior super sports category last year, and will be retaining that position on the BSB grid this year as well. Will Howarth then looking to line up on what is essentially now pole position, with Jamie King just behind him there with the yellow flashes on the leathers. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how these guys climb up through the field. The lad that crashed out of the race there, just trying to restart his bike and get back into this race. He's looking like he's going to be starting from pit lane as we get this race back underway. All these riders waiting very patiently on the grid there for this for this race to restart. The second race of the day for the PB140s and Moto Team here for round 2 at Lydd circuit for the FAB-Racing mini bike racing championships here in Lydd in Kent.
Yeah, absolutely so, and you can see at the front there it's Will Howe having a quick chat with Jamie King, the number 76. The 576 of Chris Wells. He's got a nice clear run in front of him with no Brad Ray and no Charlie Nesbitt, so yeah, watch out for Chris Wells to get a good start with a clear run down into turn 1 and see if he can filter in behind, most likely Jamie King and Will Howarth. Behind, as you say, Brad Ray and Charlie Nesbitt starting at the back, so it's going to be interesting to see what those guys can do fighting through the pack. We've seen just how quick they've been as you see the marshals just sorting out the grid formation with several riders out of position after the first lap red flag. So you can see Chris Wells just tiptoeing his way up to the front there, trying to get involved in this conversation, as a lot of these PB140 and Motor Team riders, good mates in the paddock, and just having a chat about how the race is going. And I'm sure Will Howarth will be looking at replicating what he did at that last start and taking the lead with no Brad Ray, no Charlie Nesbitt. Will's got to fancy his chances.
Yeah, well, we said earlier on how Will's really comfortable and definitely the favourite to take the win in the Moto Team category, but also looking now with some of the faster riders starting at the back of the grid, looks likely that will take the overall win as well, but we don't want to give him the commentator's curse, because you never know, Brad Ray and Charlie Nesbitt could make their way all the way through the field right to the front.
Yeah, absolutely so, and if that is the case, let us know that Tristan Finocchiaro is in the commentary box and Will Howarth will be able to come and find him for passing on that commentator's curse. But yeah, the number 96 on the Motor Team bike will fancy his chances, and equally with 76 Jamie King alongside him, the pair will most likely battle into this opening lap. So we'll find out how this progresses as Jamie King tries to roll his bike into position, and yeah, we're just formalising the grid, ready to get ready to go and re-kick off this after a first lap red flag due to a rider going down, and I believe the riders actually made their way round to the back after starting in the pit lane. So yep, all complement drivers are on the grid ready to get going, so plenty of riders for this one, 33 of them supposedly taking the start. So we'll be getting ready to go for the PB140 Motor Team race, their second race of the day, and it's going to be another fantastic race for them, because we've seen so much excitement, so many close battles between the pair of them, and we'll see what the likes of Brad Ray and Charlie Nesbitt can do from the back, making their way through the pack. Of course, traffic becomes an issue halfway through the race, and it's going to be, once again, another thrilling PB140 Moto Team race. Absolutely. It'll be really interesting to see what those guys can do. Hopefully we can follow their progress up through the grid, but it looks like we're getting slightly closer to having a restart of this race. All the revs are rising. The riders look to be getting a little bit more excitable at the moment, signalling to people on the pit lane as well. All these riders, number 576 there, just trying to get his bike restarted, so it looks like we're coming close to getting underway very shortly. Jamie King there getting ready to go as well, and we are away. I think we're going to have another warm-up lap here for these guys, just so they can suss out the track conditions after that red flag. You can just see there in shot, that's Jamie King dropping right back through the order on the warm-up lap, letting all the riders go in front of him. One tactic that a lot of riders, you see a lot of riders do on the warm-up lap, they tend to drop back through the grid, so that when they come back around onto the grid, they're not being held there for as long, so their nerves don't build up too much. And it's a tactic you see in classes all across motorsport, really, but something perhaps Jamie King is doing there. We know he's suffering from a broken rib at the moment after his crash yesterday, and yeah, quite a bit of bike damage from what we heard as well. Yeah, so really well, we may have started the race. In fact, they've gone straight around, so we will see. Hopefully they're underway, because it is Will Howarth that's currently in the lead of this one. We'll see if this is green flag, because everyone started at a relatively slow pace, but whether you can see behind Brad Ray just signalling to one of the other riders out there, and behind everyone else kind of filtering into position.
Looked like he was trying to snatch the other rider's knee slightly. But yeah, I think all these riders going around at a fairly reserved pace, so I think this is just a second warm-up lap for these guys. You can see Will Howarth heading into the final corner now, and looking like he's giving it everything at the moment then. So as he comes through the first sector, he's in the lead of this race at the moment. A few riders looking back behind them there, so perhaps a third warm-up lap, Gareth.
Yeah, a little bit. I think a little bit of confusion with the riders. No one quite sure if this is going on. So it's all about getting your head down, and just if it is the warm-up, then it is still putting some temperature into these tyres. And you can see behind there's once again the PB140s, the Moto Teams, always putting on a good show. Very loud, very brash. We've seen the likes of Charlie Nesbitt, Brad Ray, using that crest over between turn 8 and turn 9 to get a nice little hop over, and so we see the guys will be rolling around. So three warm-up laps, and back round to the grid now to form up. We've got a rider up in the air, probably just signalling to everyone behind to slow down as they form up on the grid, getting ready for race 2 of the day for the PB140 and Moto Team race. Will Howarth looking in good shape after Charlie Nesbitt and Brad Ray elected to start from the rear of the pack. So the Moto Team rider will be starting well ahead of some of his rivals in that Moto Team class, and it's all going to be about trying to get a decent launch into T1. And Will Howarth peeling off to the side there, perhaps just repositioning his bike into a different grid slot. But you can see the grid just being set up once again. And we're about to see, once again, another race here for the PB140s. And welcome to everyone watching at home. And it's going to be, once again, another strong afternoon's racing here in Lydd, in currently... It looks like a few riders coming in. I think there was a few technical issues with the timing system and a few transponder issues in this race. So we're electing not to run this race, I think, at the moment, and go straight into lunch. As we've had a little bit of news from Roger, the race director, so I think that's going to be it now until lunch for these guys. So we'll keep you updated, but we're pretty sure we're going to be going into lunch now. So that's the race postponed for the pit bike 140 and Moto Teams. It looked like it was about to happen. They started the race, had a bit of trouble, did a few warm-up laps, but that's it for them due to some transponder issues on that one. So straight into lunch for us, Gareth. Yeah, absolutely. So, and hopefully we'll see the pit bike 140s and the Moto Team bikes out after the break. But make sure you do come back and join us for that, because we've got another strong afternoon's racing here in Lydd. And well, if anything goes as we can see it right now, maybe completely different weather conditions. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us for this morning session from the Lydd circuit down in Kent. And we have brought you the first half of round 2. And it's all about pushing hard over the afternoon session. And my name is Gareth Hall, joined by Tristan Finocchiaro. And yeah, it's been an absolute brilliant morning's racing here. We've seen multiple race winners. Ethan Sparks once again impressing very much so in the junior categories. And we've had a really, really strong morning, expecting more of the same this afternoon. And yeah, hopefully so. The weather will hold off and allow us to go pushing as hard as possible across the circuit. But if not, it's going to really change up the conditions and change up how these riders use the track. Yeah, absolutely. We try our hardest not to jinx it, but yeah, we saw earlier how slippy this track can get when it rains a little bit in that crash fest of the senior minimoto race. But yeah, hopefully a lot more great racing from these guys, as we've seen all throughout this morning and all throughout yesterday. Yeah, absolutely so. And of course, you can join us by watching it on fab-racing.co.uk, by going to Fab Racing's YouTube and Facebook channel, and of course listening live on motorsport.radio. And make sure you come back and join us for the afternoon session, and we'll be bringing you plenty more action here from Lydd for the Fab Racing 2020 Minibike British Championships from currently sunny southeast England. But yep, my name is Gareth Hall, and this is Tristan Finocchiaro bringing you commentary of the season here. And we're expecting to have a fantastic afternoon's racing. But yep, come back and join us, and we will see you very, very shortly.